What's happening, folks? Michael Strange here. This is, our Friday night conversations. There's some news. There's some breaking news with the UFO realm. We'll give it a sec to let some people show up. I got some clips to play, but holy crap. There's been a lot of things happening, not just, let's say, this year, but in the, since 2017, the New York Times article, all that stuff with the UFO disclosure bit. And I always had a hunch there was something, it didn't smell right about it, right? The sort of, the injection of big time influencers, AKA, a particular rock star and some other things, right? So, like I said, we'll give it a second here, let some people show up and make sure we're good. I know we got all the streams going. So yeah, I figured we'll just stream this in all the places we normally do. So screw it. We're just going to do it like we always do, except we'll add Twitter X Spaces as part of it and get people there. What's up, Nate? I see you there on X. How are you? And okay. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to this. And really, when it comes down to it, my intuition has told me since the beginning, since the new, let's say, modern UFO disclosure movement, my intuition has kind of said this doesn't smell right. It's something about this seems incredibly bogus. It's forced. Remember, we talked about this years ago, specifically regarding the specificity of changing the name, right? Rebranding the entire thing of UAP, right? So it was UFOs back in the day, unidentified flying objects. And then suddenly they were like, well, now they're UAP, unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena. And it's like, okay, I mean, that's cool, right? But I mean, why? Why would you change the name of that? And so, like I said, there's just a lot of things that kind of line up and make my tinfoil tingle as part of this conversation. And as you know, and it's wild, right? Because in terms of this, the larger context of the conversation, you can think of, I'll talk about archons and the substrate of reality and remote viewing and consider all the possibilities, right? Which means when you consider all the possibilities, at least, again, entertaining the idea, then you have to entertain the idea of propaganda. And that's literally been one of my things for forever. I'm, trying to educate myself as much as possible in those propaganda cycles and circles and try and see where we're being influenced, because there's a lot happening in that space, especially politically. Everybody knows that. I don't have to point out where that's happening. That's kind of obvious, but there's a lot of things that are a little more subtle than that. And in this UFO space, it seems like it's been hot propaganda basically ever since this began. So yeah, I don't know. Is Rumble working, guys? What the hell's with the chat on Rumble? It's always broken. I don't see any chat on Rumble at all, but there's people there. Hey, what's up, people on Rumble? Anyway, okay. Oh, there we go. It is working. Maybe nobody chatted yet. Okay. Anyway, so I got some clips to talk about tonight because there's some wild stuff happening, like I said, which has been my theory all along. So I'll break down my theory and then we'll kind of match this and see how this fits, okay? Because my theory has been that, let's say, choose your UFO influencer. It doesn't matter who they are, okay? And I know it's contentious. I don't like to talk about people or call people liars or, these sorts of things. Meaning that the ideas are more important than the people. And if you guys have listened to me for any amount of time, I try and stick to that as much as possible. It's not entirely, you can't just seal off the people aspect of it because it is about people in the end. But my take on this was that, let me finish the thought. So in the larger context, you can consider all those ideas and consider experiencer accounts and propaganda in the same space with people being misled by whom? By what? What element or shadow factions are actually out there doing this and running this? And that's the part that drives me nuts because there's clearly somebody pulling the strings like the puppet master of the UFO information game that's, well, as I'm calling this on the stream there, influencing the influencers. Now, my theory in the old days, and this was years ago before I started doing, Troubled Minds, or really in the very beginning when I started paying attention to this type of stuff really closely, there's a strangeness to it. And because, like I said, it didn't smell right. There was something about it that didn't smell right. And my take was that I don't think the people that are telling us the information, sort of these, the top end whistleblowers, and I mean that as like the most famous. I don't mean the quality of information or anything. I'm the ones people would probably know about. Okay, if you mention sort of a laundry list of names. But I thought that it seemed like a lot of those guys, again, you pick and choose who you think is honest or not. But it seems like a lot of those guys to me were specifically, they believed what they said. I didn't detect a lot of, other than, let's say, doing the old, well, my sources, according to my sources, and I can't, give up my sources and all the rest of that stuff, which, if you're a journalist, I get it. I understand. But I always thought that it felt like there was somebody feeding disinformation, a direct, deliberate disinformation to the toppest of the UFO influencer game. And like I said, you choose who those people are. I've got some names in mind. Like I said, I don't want to call people lawyers or sorry, not lawyers, liars, because they might have lawyers. So there you go. See the Freudian slip there. I just don't like to call people liars because it's bad form. And two, they might have lawyers, right? There you go. There's the truth of it. But two things can be true at the same time. But you get the idea. So if, let's say, the top end of UFO influencers have been fed by disinformation by some shadow cabal, then basically all the stuff that kind of trickles down into that information flow becomes laced and stuck with propaganda, with UFO propaganda. And this is one of the big problems that I have when we talk about this stuff, because, it hasn't gained me a lot of cred in the UFO game. Not that I want it, to be perfectly honest, because as you know, I've said this many times before, it's important to me not to cozy up too tight with some of these, quote, UFO celebrities. Like in the old days, they wouldn't, I sent out emails trying to get interviews or whatever, and nobody ever answered me. Now it's different, right? Because now we kind of built a thing, and we have a platform, and, a lot of smart people that are involved in this. And so people reach out to me now. But now I'm kind of not interested. This has again become, man on the street sort of UFO headspace coming together. And yeah, so back to what I was saying. And the idea is that there's somebody out there, and of course, clearly it's like spooks. It's like the CIA, or it's right the Pentagon, or whatever. Like whatever combination of this, or is it not? Is it not? That's the wild part about it, because maybe this is a private group that's sort of influencing this stuff. And so anyway, let's see, make sure we got some people listening. I don't want to play the clips first and then have everybody show up after the fact. But yeah, so again, we are, the conversation tonight is, again, nonlinear, open-ended as usual. We can talk about all manner of wild things. Again, the possibility of UFOs, I think UFOs are definitely real. I'm not trying to shoot that down, but I do think the influence of the conversation regarding UFOs is highly contentious. And I think there's a lot of folks that want to run away with this narrative, some for notoriety, some for fame, some for money, and some for actual deep, dark, nefarious purposes. And so what are those purposes? And so the conversation tonight is on Discord. Again, this is where we just get everybody to hop in and kind of talk to each other. No radio format, no commercials, no bumpers, no any of that. We're just going to hang out and talk. So if you guys want to join this at any time, just put your hand up. I'm watching you on X. If you guys want to jump in, what's up, Max? I see you on X. I'm going to focus on X in the chat because I just want to make sure that I'm acknowledging people when they jump in here. And if you want to be part of it, just put your hand up and we'll put you on. But so that's been my theory all along, is if there's some group of people, and clearly there's going to be spooks, there's a government element to this, but there's definitely a group of people that are seeding misinformation to the top UFO influencers, and even trading information or promising information to kind of put stories out. And if you guys have been paying any attention on X, and X is one of those things where information flows freely all the time. Listen to this. This is so there's a couple things that hit. So I saw this last night. This is from UFO Joe. You guys know him at the UFO Joe on X. Joe Murgia. He's been on the show. Talked to him a few times. He's a cool dude. I think he's a straight shooter, and he lives here in Vegas, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him. We're kind of neighbors by proxy because we live in the same city. But he has this thing that he pointed this out. He does transcriptions, but there's a new documentary that came out with Jeremy Corbell. Okay. And Jeremy Corbell, you guys know him. He's one of those guys that is polarizing. Some people are like, yeah, this guy's the guy. And other people are like, no, this dude is not the guy. And I'm not telling you what to think. I want you to think for yourself. And so I have my own ideas, of course, and it'll leak out because I can't, you can't seal off what you really believe in a long form conversation. It does leak out. But basically, look, it's like this. What is the actual let me tell you what the documentary is. What's up? Ricky, drop it. It's called TMZ Presents UFO Revolution. And you can find this on Tubi now. It's free on Tubi, I think, with TMZ production, of course. And I think they had it maybe paywalled or just on their network. But now it's hit Tubi. So it's making all the rounds and whatnot, okay? And I'll play you the clips. There's 3 clips here on specifically what Jeremy Corbell said. And UFO Joe did actually transcribe this beautifully. So if you guys are interested, of course, all these links will be in the description. Please do follow these people that put out this information. I know firsthand transcribing stuff and spending time to do thoughtful long form tweets and whatnot. It's work. It is work, guys. It's like a kind of curating a constant blog where you get haters and pot shots kind of fired your way. And so it's work. So follow these people, give them the respect to say, hey, thanks for citing this. I'll tell Joe. I'll actually tag them in a second, see if he wants to come on and talk about this. I don't know if he will. I don't know if he's busy or not, but I'll wing it a prayer, right? Take a shot and see if we can get him on here. But point is, he regarding this particular show, again, UFO Revolution, there's 3 episodes as far as I'm aware. It's hit Tubi. I haven't seen it, but I have seen this clip. Okay. Now I'm going to play you the part from here that's important. The important part of this is specifically what I've been talking about for years, which is UFO propaganda, which is some shadowy cabal of individuals, maybe multiple factions, groups. And this has come up when we talked about the Collins elite, sort of a supposed faction in the Pentagon that's very, evangelical or whatnot. And they think that UFOs are demons and they're trying to, manipulate the story. Anyway, listen to this. This is what Jeremy Corbell said in this interview. And I know, like I said, this is polarizing. Okay. So try and remove yourselves from the individuals and listen to the information. This is part 1, straight from this, again, TMZ presents UFO Revolution. And this is from episode 3, I believe. Here you go. This is Jeremy Corbell describing exactly what I've been talking about for literal years. Listen to this.
Your government now wants you to know one truth. And that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already told you. Sometimes when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie. And that's coming. I have 0 doubt. That lie is coming.
What is the lie?
Specifically, you want me to say it right now, for real? Real? On camera. To be put in the show?
Yes.
Okay. Problem with that. If we tell the lie before it's told, they can adapt. That wouldn't be wise. I'll tell you privately, but I would really think about if you want to put this in your show. For real. That's a real thing I'm telling you. So will you think about it before putting it in your show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so the drama's thick, right? It's the heavy editing. If you guys have watched the clip at all, it's not just heavily edited. It's got multiple camera shots. It's the whole bit. Here, I got the thing here. Thank you. Shout out Ricky for the link on Tubi here. Oops, gonna mute that. And this is what it looks like. This is the actual Tubi. TMZ presents UFO Revolution. So I'll link this in the chat if you want to watch it. But basically. Yeah, that's the first bit of it. He's kind of teasing the old Ferrilio. You really want to know the secrets? What are the secrets, right? Kind of doing that bit, which drives me nuts. It's like, hey, bro, if you got secrets that will change the world, and I've been saying this for a long time, spit it out. Spit it out or shut up. That's my take on this. Not just him. Let's say specifically when people are telling us they're sitting on a bunch of information that is super top secret, right? Okay. Anyway, here's part 2. Okay, so this escalates, and we'll get into more of this. What Joe said about it. We got a couple posts from UFO Rabbit Hole. That's Kelly. I don't know Kelly at all. I do respect the work she's doing because I think she does it in earnest. I don't think she's one of those types. But anyway, here we go. Here's part 2. Listen to this.
So UFOs are real, and they've been here a long time, and that's the truth. But the lie is coming. All indications, like all of them, is that lie is going to be that there is a craft slowly making its way to us here on Earth. And that is the lie they're going to want you to believe. It's nuanced, how they explain that, the nature of that threat. But that 100% is the lie you are going to be told. You even got a date. People been whispering a date for a long time now. I know where that lie comes from. I know specifically what document from the 70s initiated the idea of that lie. A classified document. That is the lie you will be told. You're going to be told that there is a craft on its way to Earth. That's the lie. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I sent you 2 texts today with a year. Not from me.
I think it was, if you watch the video that they flashed the text, it was like the year 2033 or 2036. I don't know. It doesn't matter much. I'm not so sure. But here's part 3. So that's, again, Jeremy Corbell talking in this UFO revolution from TMZ. Here's part 3. Now, recognize what he's doing. It's not only is it incredibly dramatic, he could just say it, but he's like, for realsies, you want to put this in the thing? You want to, are you sure you should really think about this? And then he tells us, right? It's like, I'm not going to tell you, but then he tells you. Okay. And then here's part 3 of it. And again, then I'll go through some of this information I got that made me go, wait a minute. If this is happening, then this has been orchestrated from years out. And this has been a manipulation game all the way through YouTube, all the way through X, all the way through any platform and any influencer that comes up in the UFO game. They are being manipulated by contact with this shadow cabal, or these individuals, singular, plural. Anyway, here's part 3. Jeremy Corbell talking about this. Now, yeah, wild stuff. Listen to this.
Nope. I'm not going to propagate that lie. Not going to be part of it. Not going to say it to the camera. Everybody knows. Just start paying attention. And they'll change the date, especially if they see this. Things will change. Because maybe I'm trustworthy. Maybe I'm worthy of your trust. Maybe I've told you the truth the whole way through it. Now you can verify it. If that's the case, then I'm fucking dangerous. You've been told the truth about UFOs for a long time now. It's been pretty orchestrated. It's been pretty clear. And it's using people that are telling the truth and want to tell the truth. Ultimately, they want you to know something. They want you to know UFOs are real. Thank God we're finally there. We're all there now. They want you to know the truth. But why they want you to know that truth now? I hope I'm wrong, but it's terrifying. Think about it. Maybe it's good to get ahead of it. Call it out now before they do it. I'll be called crazy. That's okay.
The dramatic edits. I love it. I love it. Okay. So that's what leads us into this conversation tonight. Like I said, UFO propaganda. It's been a thing I've been talking about for literally years. And whereas I try and dodge the pointing fingers at who I think is, the individual players in the game, I think if you pay attention, you can probably see. Because check this out. Now, this is, what's up? I thought you said much lags, much hugs. Okay. So now this is from Kelly. This is from Kelly Chase from the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. She does a great job, again, interviewing, top UFO people. And her own commentary. Like I said, my opinion of her is neutral plus. I think she's smart. I think she's it does this in earnest, like I was saying. And like I said, you decide when it comes to personalities and whatnot. And I take the quality of their work for what it is. And you can kind of do the same thing with me, right? Whatever. Like if I'm here trying to tell you something that may or may not be true, you decide. I'm not anybody's arbiter of truth, as I always say. But she said this, what Jeremy is saying here is true. This is the lie that's already being spread. And from what I can tell, it's often being used to recruit rising influencers. It's a quote unquote secret they are told that makes them feel like they're quote unquote on the inside. The date that is given for when the ship will arrive is 2036, which is, again, the insider information. And we've heard this from people. People have described this specifically and directly in these UFO communities, and made Reddit posts about them, made X posts about them. And so the question really is, for me, is where this information is coming from. What what cabal, what level of disinformation brokers are invested in this game other than the obvious. The obvious to me would be the military industrial complex, to right, the shadow players at the Pentagon to try and obfuscate what we know about UFOs and what we don't. Not just for, let's say, to keep the public confused, but then also, to tamp down what our adversaries do or don't know about some of the spooky stuff we actually do have technology-wise, China specifically, okay? So I don't know. Basically, let's do it. Let's get in here and let's hear your thoughts on this. But, okay, one more wrinkle, and then we'll go to, I see you, Matthew. Hang tight. Thanks for being patient. So Joe adds this, UFO Joe. And these are all posts. I'll link them in the chat, or they'll be linked in the description when we're done here. Joe says this. Joe Murgia. Last year, I had someone who was very close with Lou, talking about Lou Elizondo, send me a signal audio message talking about an alleged signal that had been picked up and it was heading towards Earth. Not sure on the date, but I seem to remember 2031 or 2033. They did not tell me who told them that info, but I assumed it was Lou Elizondo again. And he says they deleted that audio message. And there's a lot of folks in the chat that are kind of chiming in on what they think and whatever, which is great. It's all out there. You guys can go check it out. I'll drop these links in the chat there if you guys want to go follow up and read this yourself. But that's the crux of tonight. That's the information we begin with. And what do you think about this? And who the hell's telling, or even, as I'm calling it, influencing the influencers? Like, who is the shadow cabal of disinformation brokers in the UFO community beyond the obvious, which is going to be the Pentagon, the military industrial complex? But everybody's welcome tonight. Like I said, this is just a conversation. So just go ahead and put your hand up wherever you're at. We'll pop you in and we'll just kind of riff it around and talk about these things. And yeah, wild stuff. I'm still digging into this as we go. So let's get Matthew in here. And if anybody wants to jump in, you're welcome to. What's up, brother? Welcome to the thing. Thanks for being patient. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to start out, I'm with you in general. I've seen so much evidence that whether it's somebody like Lou Alexandro or some of, I think even Dr. Greer, but the other UFO people, I've seen, I think, a lot of evidence over the couple decades I've been following it, where it seems like they have some good information and let's say true things to reveal, but then there's part of what they'll say that they got from some source or got told or whatever that is just like off or wrong. And it's like pretty obvious that they're getting fed disinformation. And it'll come up in ways that, like, this thing they'll say or claim they'll make or whatever, it'll come out in time that it's proven false, right? And so it's like they're being set up to be discredited. They're like, we feed him, 9 pieces of valid information and then one that's totally made up crap, and then he's going to mouth off and claim it's true. And then, even other fellow UFO researchers are going to bust him and then go, well, you're full of shit. We don't believe you. It damages your credibility and reputation. And so when they have people that, maybe like Alexander, who I think he's revealed a lot of good stuff and knows a lot of good stuff, but he just was too close with the government for me to believe everything he says. I think they've fed him a lot of twists and misinformation. I was reminded of when I was writing my book and I was talking about my chapter on truth. One of my favorite quotations is Soren Kierkegaard, the philosopher. And he said, there's 2 ways to be fooled. And one is to believe something to be true, which is not true. And the second is to refuse to believe something that's true. And I actually had a dream one night, and, I kind of had a team and a little help writing my book. And I had this dream, and I watched this whole demonstration. It was almost like up on a stage, and they had this table, and there was this glass, and they poured like this light green liquid in it. And they were explaining it was like kind of like falsity or disinformation, and this was telepathic. And then they took another glass and filled it with this blue liquid, you know, and that was like the truth. And then they took like a small spoon or something of the green liquid and they poured it into the top of the blue glass, and it didn't change the color. And I understood what it meant when I woke up. And so I added to Kierkegaard and I said, there's three ways to be fooled. And the part I added was, to believe something that's, 98% true, but has a 2% lie or twist. And it distorts, the whole thing. And so I refer to that in my book as the blue double cocktail. And so I think that's common. And it's standard practice, and they actually the military uses it to, if they've got somebody leaking information, they'll give information to everybody in a group or something that's mostly the same, but they'll have one part different, and then if it gets leaked or a copy of a document gets sent out, they know who the leaker is because they give them each a slightly different copy. Elon Musk did that, and he embedded just like small differences in the order of words and gave and distributed it around his country. And when a company and when the document came out, he was able to look up and find out exactly who leaked it. So that's a known, proven, tried and true technique to plant a little disinformation, either to destroy somebody's credibility or just to, kind of like Corbell was saying, the UFO thing is true, but you put a lie in there or a twist in there, then they're using it for a whole different intent and purpose and motivation. And I think that's a reasonable statement that he said, that, the fact that Congress is admitting it, we're kind of having this slow drip of disclosure, right? It's like, well, okay, they've been lying for 7 years and now they want us to know. Well, the obvious question should be, why now? And what does they wouldn't allow it if it didn't serve some purpose. So what is their purpose? And, without going into any details, I would say, just generally speaking, is some move to have more control and authority, over society. And, the terrorists as the boogeyman, had to replace the previous countries or dictators, and now it's just terrorists and jihadists. But that's getting old. They're not getting any play off that anymore. So the next boogeyman is going to be the mothership invading. And when he was talking about that, I thought, man, I've seen for a month, Michael, I've seen probably 20 or 30 postings about. I saw one today that was claiming James Webb photographed this fleet of ships on its way. I saw one yesterday that was NASA from the ISS had filmed these UFOs all around, and saw one about a laser signal from space, and it's already been around. It's being circulated, this whole notion of ships coming here. So I don't know who or what's going on with that, but maybe they're already laying the groundwork and the foundation for that kind of lie. I don't know if, and I think it's legit when he says, if you expose what the lie is going to be, he said, if I tell you, they'll change their plans. And I think that's happened a lot of times. Just like, every time the Roswell story got busted, they had to come up with a new story. So, if you tip your hand, they can take advantage of that and go, well, they figured that out, so we need to come up with tweak it a bit, change it a bit. That makes sense to me. But yeah, he seemed to be overly dramatic. And I don't know too much about him. But I also have you seen what's his name? Ross
Ross
Coulter.
Ross Coulthart. Yep, the Australian
Yeah,
fellow. Yeah.
the Australian guy. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with him, but I've, seen 5 or 6 of his things. I've always been pretty impressed with him. He takes it from a, journalist perspective, I think. And he was a famous journalist before he got into UFO stuff, so he kind of has those skills. But tonight he's releasing his uh, big program with the whistleblower.
That's tomorrow night.
Did you?
Tomorrow night. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, it's today Friday?
Yeah, today's Friday. Yep.
Oh yeah, tomorrow night. Well, I saw. Did you see? He did kind of a preview a couple nights ago, and he showed a couple minutes from the interview with that guy. Did you check that out?
I didn't. I'm familiar with the guy on X. I just followed him. What's his name? It'll dawn on me. It's a new whistleblower though. So it's the guy you're talking about. So the other one was Jason Sands, and he had that sort of the basis for the movie with James Fox. I mean, if you guys don't know these folks, I'm just kind of speaking Greek, but basically the whole point is that there's like this group of people, and I've said this for years, like 100 people, 200 people, maybe 300 people that are basically running the narratives on this stuff. And it feels like I've been describing for years as part of these conversations we've been having, that they're getting information from the same place. And so the same place as you're describing is, it could be Game of Thrones. It could be sort of, leaking enough information to find out who's gonna turn on you and who's not going to. But this new claim is that they are recruiting or sort of bringing new influencers in the UFO space into their fold and promising them information for, I guess, narratives, to kind of put narratives out there, which is wild, because if you guys have been paying attention, any amount of attention in the past, let's say 5 years to the UFO space, there's a ton of people that have kind of burned through it. That have been like, okay, I'm super excited about this. And then for whatever reason, they just get burnt out and they quit. They stop. Yeah, Game of Drones. Exactly, says Christy in the chat. But they stop and they get burnt out. And first they were all ready to believe about everything. The Fox Mulder and the Dana Scully's in the house, and then suddenly something turned their stomach, and they just stopped entirely caring about the ideas, and even became hostile and quit and literally just left the space entirely. Because why? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of disinformation out there as part of these games, these sort of shadow faction, as I'm calling it tonight, the UFO shadow faction. But I think they're burning people. I think they're sort of, as you described, seeding them with false information, so that, and saying, look, this is on high. This is from the source of the source. And this is like secret stuff. And then they feed it to them, and then they report it, right? They leak it, and it makes them look like a fool because they can't say who told them. Okay. And then if they do, then they're out. So it's almost like this weird litmus test of influencers, again, influencing the influencers. And so really the question is, who's doing this? And like I said, the obvious answer is the military industrial complex to start. But does it get more complicated than that? Because this is wild, that not just in the sort of the UFO niche, which is, it's big in a general interest, which is, I think, why you would do this. But in the specific niche interest, when you talk about these things, there's not a lot of people that are into this. Like I said, maybe UFO Twitter's 3,000 to 5,000 people or something. UFOX, the Reddit has like a lot of people with a cursory interest, but people that watch the news every day on this stuff. I'm one of them. A lot of you guys are one of them. Maybe you aren't. I don't know. It's incredible to consider that we've been manipulated with something as simple as UFOs for probably forever. I mean, 1947 is one of the good ones, but I don't know. What's your take on that? Lots of stuff here. Everybody's welcome if you want to jump in here. If you guys are on X, just put up your hand and we'll get you on the show here. And the whole point is to talk to people. No radio format tonight, no bumpers. We're not doing the phone line. We're doing X instead, and just talking to each other. And this wild stuff that just hit in the last 48 hours of manipulations happening within the UFO realm. And I think now we kind of see why there's been falling outs and manipulations and gaslighting and all the stuff you would expect from a propaganda space, which certainly the UFO space has become. But yeah, go ahead, Matthew. What else you got?
Well, before we leave the Australian journalist thing with the new whistleblower, from what I saw, kind of a short version of it is, or summary of it is, this whistleblower is really different than like a David Grush or somebody who's, I heard it from here. I mean, he's like a firsthand guy. So he's, with impeccable military career, was a helicopter pilot, among other things. He dug into his background, and he's legit, and had, 3 other people that served with him, and he is who he says he is. Okay. That's number one. But number two, basically his story is, he was the helicopter pilot that did a crash retrieval and flew the helicopter to extract this thing, which he described as pretty much a giant white egg with no means of propulsion, and had this basically 150-foot long, rope type thing down from his helicopter, and was flying at night. And so he was using night vision goggles. There was no heat coming from it, anything like that, and flew his helicopter down, and the people on the ground, wrapped it around this egg thing, and he transported it. So as a whistleblower, he's saying, I'm the guy that worked on a crash retrieval. And, so it's not like, oh, I heard this story from somebody else, but I can't reveal my source. It's like, no, I'm the source. I'm the guy that did that. And he actually talked too about other people that he worked with, and I think did some other crash retrievals, for the whatever branch of the government does that stuff. And they had worked on them before, and that they were just like, yep, that was, I guess they discussed it, and he said, is that what I think it was? And they were like, yeah, that's non-human intelligence. That's not our stuff. And they're like, well, no, we pretty much don't talk about it and don't mention it to anybody, and we just do our jobs. But I'm looking forward to the program.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick on Ross Coulthart. So again, I don't like to crap on people. I think these folks probably believe the things they're saying. He's also the guy that floated the fact, according to him, that there's a UFO mothership that's the size of a stadium or something, and they had to build a building around it because it was too big for them to move. So, if this stuff is actually true, then a lot of these guys are sitting on disclosure itself and not sharing it. Right. And that's the thing that kind of pisses me off a little bit with these people that are like, well, we could all, organize a march, sort of like the Raid Area 51 thing, if you guys remember that, and just get a bunch of people there, even throw a festival right outside of it, and everybody go check it out and, cause like just a huge media frenzy. And then certainly, the truth would have to come out at some point, right? I don't know, but we still don't know the location of that. It's complicated, right? But the thing is that here we are kind of chasing these shadows once again over and over with people that supposedly are sitting on disclosure itself. And then instead we get stories of influencing the influencers and getting these ideas of, a mothership flying to Earth that'll be here in 2036. And I've heard this story a lot. I can name specific names that have said these things in the past several years. Like I said, it makes my tinfoil tingle. And I mentioned this on X earlier, is that there's a, what is it? So the shadow faction is feeding influencers, obviously, disinformation. And as you said, very, very smartly, it's probably to discredit them in some way. Okay. But also, I wonder how much of that, as you described, is also true. Because if you feed enough truth in there, then there's going to be some other problems, right? There's going to be some, well, okay, this much kind of checks out, that much doesn't check out. And then so we have these people that are doing these things and describing this. And then these influencers kind of flow through the UFO space, and they get maybe made fools of, maybe discredited, and then they quit. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they feed them such terrible information to the discerning eye people that are in the game, then they get ridiculed and run out. And maybe it's one of those games. I don't know. There's a lot to this, and it's complicated, but for sure, it seems like something is happening here. And recognize I've been talking about this for years, literally for years, because it feels like all this information is flowing through one space, one mind's eye. And whatever that looks like, I don't know. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that might be specifically and directly. But I think even the highest level individuals that come out of the Pentagon might be, let's say, being fed this information as truth, and it's not. You get it? I don't know. It's incredibly weird as all this shakes out. And I want to say this too real quick. You're a poker player, so this fits perfectly. When I posted this earlier on X, and it's to this effect. When you have somebody that, or many individuals that are saying the same things, okay? We hear the terms, things like, catastrophic disclosure. We hear terms like the truth embargo. We hear terms like, you get the idea, right? Oh, my sources, according to my sources. When you get people saying these things, the same types of things, it's a red flag to me. I'm like, okay, so how come they're using like the exact same language? Like the exact same language, as if the narrative is being fed to that exact angle. It's strange to me. And so I've always had my tinfoil tingle when people say my sources, according to my sources. And as a poker player, you know this, Matt here's a poker player as well. People have tells in poker, unless you're very good and can kind of turn into the lizard brain and just shut down for a minute and don't react to anything, and you're very difficult to read. When people say to me, according to my sources, and they say something wild, but they can never tell you who your sources are, that to me is a poker tell. That to me is one of these things that traces all the way back. And if you're listening and paying attention, I know there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of people saying a lot of things, there's a lot of wild ideas, including these shows, the Corbell show that just came out or just dropped on from TMZ to Tubi, all this stuff, right? But the wild part is that I think you could probably trace this back to who's been influenced by the language they use. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, what you got there? Everybody's welcome tonight. We're just hanging out talking about this stuff. Again, I'm calling it, the influencing the influencers, the UFO shadow faction, because this news is breaking. We've got information that basically suggests there's a shadow cabal of individuals that are reaching out specifically to growing UFO influencers and feeding them disinformation. So what is happening? And what's your take on that? Go ahead. Everybody's welcome on X or on Discord. Put your hand up. We'll drop you in. I see you, Shane. We'll get you in a second. Go ahead, Matt, on your take on that.
Yeah, well, real quick, I'll come back to that. Excuse me, and your previous question, but I'll just say I saw in Troubled Minds Facebook group either yesterday or the day before posted by you guys that a thing about Dr. Stephen Greer talking about whistleblowers coming out like in the next 48 hours. So I don't know if it was the same guy that I was just talking about. But also, in terms of your last point, I agree with you, and I can see that. In particular, the news media does that with, unnamed sources. And that's like, okay, well, I already know you lie and you do propaganda, and now you're saying something outrageous, and you're not revealing anything to back it up, and just hiding behind, unnamed sources or, officials, high government officials told me. And now, on the other hand, so I think that's a valid point you make. On the other hand, if you're a reporter and you reveal your sources, people aren't going to leak stuff to you anymore. And I think, Dr. Greer, I think he did get thousands of valid pieces of information, but people went to him because he wouldn't reveal the sources and he wouldn't name names unless they would allow it. And then so people trust you and you get more. If you reveal your sources, well, you better go out with the bang because that's the last time anybody's going to tell you anything secret. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a fair point. But also your bigger point, or you asked the question of, who's really behind it? And tying, is it the government, the military industrial complex, the Pentagon, how much do they know, or who, in the Defense Department? And, that all gets compartmentalized and everything like that, and probably very few of them. And the same thing we're talking about is even the people that might know a fair amount, up in the official channels, or even on the industrial side of things, they're probably getting fed disinformation or that blue devil cocktail. So they might think they know, but Mark Twain, the problem isn't with what you know, it's what you think you know that just ain't so.
Exactly.
And
well said.
So they've got that blue devil cocktail, and then anybody they're going to tell if they brief Congress or whatever, then it gets passed along. It's like the telephone game where every time it gets passed down the chain, garbage in, garbage out, it gets more confused. But I also consider something like what maybe started out government and then became sort of relegated to the the skunk works and people like that, and the industrial and if we're going to go down reverse engineering stuff, that maybe the Majestic 12 or whoever lost control of it, and it went into something we would maybe think of as like some kind of deep state or other people that are really running some other kind of secret UFO stuff or know the secrets. And there could be multiple levels of this, right?
Yeah, the deep state. Like, this is what we're dealing with. That's wild. Yeah, I don't know. As usual, and you mentioned MJ12. There's a lot of information about that in the past. And the thing is, to me, like, I think the further back you go, the more obfuscated this stuff gets. And I think it's intentional, and specifically because they've been sort of putting this stuff in a blender, kind of testing what works, what the public's interested in, who to feed information to. One Richard Doty comes to mind, individuals like this. I mean, there's a lot of these players that are in it for themselves, that are in it for a job, maybe, that who knows? I don't know. As usual, like my tinfoil tingles when I hear anybody say my sources, because I think that right there is our tell. When you start to think, again, back to the poker tell, when you start to think about this UFO shadow faction that is influencing the influencers themselves, that is exactly the language. You can trace the language back by exactly what they're saying. Again, my sources, catastrophic disclosure, truth embargo, like all this stuff flows back through all these people that might come from a specific source at the top, or top-ish, a group of people, maybe 4 or 5 folks. And who are they? What are they doing? What is the agenda? I don't know. Everybody's welcome. Jump on in here. We're going to get Shane up. Stay right there, Matthew. Appreciate you very much. We're on Discord tonight. We're in all the places we usually stream, on Twitter X. I see you there. Shout out Stephen Camby and True Seekers. What's up, buddy? And B is here as well. What's up, King Richard, Ricky, and Jago? I see you guys. And let's do it. Let's go to Blind Psychonaut. What's up, Shane? You are on Troubled Minds sort of Friday night chats. We got Herschel. We'll bring him in a sec. Let's get your take on this, Shane. What do you got? Give him a second here. He's actually the Blind Psychonaut for a reason. I'll give him just a moment. But I don't know. This, like I said, when I started seeing this information kind of flow out in the last 48 hours, I was a little bit, well, I don't know. Is it validating, or is this one of those things where I'm like, I knew it. I freaking knew it. I knew it all this time. I've been telling you for 10 damn years. What did what's his name say? Randy Quaid in Independence Day, is that this information has been tainted from the top down, and a lot of the information that people get in the UFO space is bunk. and it's let's call it problematic. I'll call it problematic. Shane, welcome to the joint. Thanks for being patient. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and Matt, and we'll get Herschel in here in a second. Everybody else that wants to join, go right ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. You sound great.
How you guys doing tonight?
Well enough.
Awesome.
Well enough. I hope you're well as well. Go ahead. What you got?
I'm in the same boat, but I understand about not revealing sources. Because like what Matthew said is, I mean, if you start naming names of people who give you the info, then you can't be trustworthy. But what I find suspicious is when these people come out and call themselves whistleblowers. Like I'm gonna butcher this name, but Lou Elizondo, I think that's how you say it. But
that's the guy.
Or Grush. Every time, like when they went on to Joe Rogan, every time Joe Rogan would ask kind of like a juicy question, they would always say, "Well, I can't talk about that," or "Let me see what I can say." To me, that makes me feel those guys. One, we already know they worked, and they're probably still working hand to hand with the military-industrial complex, the government. It just makes me feel suspicious. It's like you guys call yourself whistleblowers, and a true whistleblower wants to get that info, supposedly wants to get that info out, but yet you're still holding back. And I feel like one of I believe him is what's his name, Bob Lazar, because from what we've heard and from what the evidence we've seen, they literally tried to erase his credentials, him, and he just came out and from what he was saying, like what he saw, what he experienced, and like they erased like all of his stuff, and one of the biggest thing is he's kept the same story for 40 years. So
maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a couple things with that. Clearly that I think my take on Bob Lazar is that he may have been a test case for this propaganda cycle, like the current propaganda cycle. Like if you can feed information to an individual and have them propagate it, then suddenly everybody's talking about that information, right? That's how I see Bob Lazar. I honestly don't think that he's on the up and up when it comes to that type of stuff. And so if that's the case, again, I'm not the arbiter of anybody's truth. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to think. This is my opinion on that, because there's so much sketchy stuff as part of it that it makes me wonder if that was the beta test of what it looks like in the larger context of today, which is now a new propaganda cycle from 2017, the New York Times article, Tom DeLonge, Lou Elizondo, all the rest of this stuff that they kind of did 20 or 30 years of research on that. 1989 is when that hit. And now they're using that as a test case of more interesting angles and UFO invasions and other stuff. But sorry to interrupt, but that's my take on Bob Lazar, just so you guys know. I know we haven't talked about him in quite some time, but that's my take on that. I think that he was probably one of the original influencers that have been influenced, is my take. But go ahead. What else you got?
Well, I mean, he even says that when he was signing papers and like that first day, which is what they do is they bombard you, signing contracts and basically after you sign the dotted line, you get to know what you're doing most cases. And he even says like the information he read, he has, could have been lies, could have not been. So, I mean, you could be totally right. I mean, who knows? That's why we're here, trying to sort out what's truth and what's not. But like I said, I always get suspicious every time when someone's like, well, I can't talk about that. Or does that make, I don't know if that makes any, hopefully that makes sense. It's like, well, what are you trying to, what are you doing really? And with, like you brought up, with Richard Doty, which again is a weird case because he came out I think on Art Bell back in the early 90s when he first came out and said, yeah, I was tasked to spread misinformation to, what's his name, Paul Bedowitz. I think that's right.
That's the guy's name, yep.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the guy, he ended up committing suicide because of what was happening. Now, I don't. Was Richard Doty? Was he another test case, like beta case? I don't know. It's so many angles, and obviously, I think there is truth that gets put in it, but lies, and they do that because they obviously want us to see what or how we act as like a nation or civilization to like all this stuff, and yeah, so that's what I gotta say about that.
yeah. Just a reminder. So, okay, we're talking about this the revelations from Jeremy Corbell on this TMZ now hit Tubi thing, where he's talking about how they rope influencers in with information. They tell them he's calling it the big lie, that there's going to be a UFO invasion. There's a mothership or something coming to Earth. Okay. And they're using it as information to give them or tell them something to kind of keep them in the fold, which is classic manipulation stuff. So I don't know. It's complicated, and again, trust nobody is how I see this field, because wherever the stuff flows from, it all makes my tinfoil tingle as part of the conversation. Fire stuff. We got hands up. You guys are welcome to stay right there. Let's get Herschel up here. Let's get MJ up here, and let's just chop it up. Everybody's welcome, of course. We're doing Friday nights, which are just going to be talking to people, which is part of the conversation. But go right ahead. Let's see. Who's first? Herschel's first, and then MJ, and you guys go right ahead. Chop it on up, and I'll shut my mouth.
Well, to me, this is just the thing of, again, it's like the evil twin of good fiction, some of these so-called whistleblowers. First of all, a whistleblower is a whistleblower. They don't have to ask permission. They're trying to blow the whistle. So it's almost like they're trying to change the definition of whistleblowers to confuse you about who the real whistleblowers. Because they're not whistleblowers, because they always have to say, oh, I can't talk about this or I can't talk about that. Well, then you're not a whistleblower. You're a bad actor. You're a really bad actor. Some of these guys, I've seen them on Rogan or whatever, they're so just the worst. Like, they're not even trying to lie, be good liars anymore. You know what I mean? It's just so dumb. But so there's the four choices people have. When you bump up against the wall of the unknown, or when you're looking over the edge of your mind and you can't find the next answer, you make four choices. You either turn and walk away because you're too busy, or you want to bury your head in the sand. That is, might sound unfortunate, but at least it's an honest thing to do. Just like, look, it's too much for me right now. I got to deal with my life, and I'm going to go do something else. Or you can become a forensic person, like a scientist or a journalist. I like to use this term, forensic journalism. Some journalists are investigative journalists. They're not the people who read the teleprompters on the television. They're the ones who actually go find out, and they are scientific in the way that they do it. Forensic journalists, they want to know the next thing. So when they bump their head next time, at least they get to take a couple of extra steps forward. It's like they're pushing the wall forward, And then there's people like me and a lot of us that listen to your show who we experiment with thought, and we might write fiction, or we have thought experiments, and we talk about it, and we try to look and figure it out. And then you have these people who take the unknown, and they take the opportunity for themselves to advance themselves by deceiving everybody. And the difference in this situation is that there are people who know, and they're openly just holding the information back from everybody else. And they these are not, they don't have good motives, and it's right in our faces. It just seems like every decision that the powers that be make nowadays is just a provocation. It's just a provocation against the people. It's like they're at war with us. And this UFO thing, it's like they're at war with our minds. It's like they're at war with our minds, and we pay them. They put us into debt, and everything's falling down around us. The buildings, the bridges, people are living out in the streets, and they're just bombarding us with this nonsense, And so, but the biggest thing for me, the thing that is like, if somebody is saying that they are a whistleblower, but they can't tell you anything, then they're not a whistleblower. That's not a whistleblower. A whistleblower is somebody like Snowden, who has to leave the country because he actually did the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody like Julian Assange. He wasn't even a whistleblower. He was just doing journalism. He was just a forensic journalist. He's like, look what I found. Here it is. That's all he did. He wasn't even really whistleblowing anything because he wasn't a government employee.
Yeah,
He just made a platform for people to put information on, which is crazy that they wanted to charge him with treason and all kinds of craziness.
He's not even American. They tried to charge him with treason.
Yeah. Wild too regarding that is that he's a free man. so how serious do they take that? They're like, oh, it's all fine now. You're all forgiven. Everything's good. We worked it out politically, so we're fine. It's like what the hell? Wait, so is it treason or not? Like, what is going on here? It's like treason's fine after a certain amount of time passes or whatever. Go ahead, MJ. Welcome to the joint. You guys just chop it up. Everybody's welcome. I hear Twitter Spaces is choppy, so sorry about that. We're gonna have to figure out a new browser or something, and I'm trying to integrate all these things, and it's harder than it looks. But anyway, go ahead, MJ, and then you guys just chop it up. Everybody's welcome. If you want to put your hand up, just jump on in here and let's talk. MJ's been quiet and he's been waiting for a minute. Let's let him go, and then you guys go ahead.
Well, a lot of guys, you're talking about a lot of these whistleblowers, and I agree with Herschel. I would say that you have a government organization like the CIA who plants these people out there, and they're reporting and doing what everybody else is doing and saying the same things, and then they throw out some disinformation. Okay, and this has been a proven fact. There was a scientist that was, when the crop circles started coming in, they started taking pictures of it and everything, and he put them on his computer when it came available, and he set them up upright, and he spun the crop circle. And what he found out was it was a machine. He literally built a machine off the specs he was getting off the crop circles. And he tried plasma, and it sort of worked, but it didn't really work. But there was a woman that was reporting on crop circles. She was on Coast to Coast before Knapp. Who was before Knapp?
That's
or George Norrie. Was it
Art Bell?
Was it Knapp? It was the first. Huh?
I thought you were talking about a woman. I was saying Linda.
No, it wasn't a woman. She was on Coast to Coast, but it was the guy that did the original Coast to Coast.
Art Bell.
And found out she was in CIA, and she died at either 63 or 68 years old because she had spent her time debunking, kind of letting it go for, and then put a little disinformation out. Go, different disinformation. This is what these guys are doing, all of them. Now, either somebody's got a hold of them, said, we'll pay you to keep doing this, but you got to do this for us. And who's going to give up? You sort of dig in there and you get this paycheck coming in because they're getting paid. You get this paycheck coming in and they've got control of you. So I can't put it in that they're out to get us so much. Maybe originally they wanted to, go out there and get it, and they sold out to a system that puts out all this disinformation. I was warned a long time ago because I was, I'm not going to brag, but it was pretty good when I was doing ratings. And I got invited, to do a little remote viewing for the government. And I was talking to a friend about it. I was like, yeah, man, this is going to be real cool. He says, don't do it. He says, just don't do it. He says, if and because I guess apparently knew somebody else that did this, and he can't find him. He said, don't do it. You're walking into the wrong, he got a really bad feeling. He says, don't get involved with the government. So I didn't. and I'm not going to brag again, but with all the experiences I've seen, all the detailed stuff I've seen, if I started blowing up like, oh, I've got the proof, I got to come over here and I can show you. I know places out in Arizona I can go to, get a group of people together, and you're going to see something. It may not be of Earth, and you're going to see something. Maybe a lot of our stuff, since it's up in the air and you can go see it, generally everybody can go see it, so they're not really shy about that part. It's just getting close to where it's really coming from and what the real meaning of it is. That's what they don't want you to know about. They don't care if you see it all. They don't care if you know about it. But it ultimately is, why are you going to pounce on it at one time and basically control the Earth, or we go down to 800 million on the planet? Is this what it's all about, to control and slavery? We don't know. But and you're right, we don't have a lot of people that watch this stuff. There's not a big crowd, but you go to the UFO conferences now and they're arguing with one another. And this is how they make their weekend money. Okay, they get a certain percentage of each share that comes in and pays to be there. That's how they make their money. So, and then they're starting to argue. So something's starting to split. And I think it started with, as far as, I don't really follow a lot of the stuff. It started with the UAP. And now they're trying to say UAP is something different from UFO. Well, it starts with the letter U, so it's unidentified. So it's the same thing. But they're trying to segregate it so they can start lobbing off the old stuff, and we're going to kind of corral it over here, and we're going to start off the new stuff. So your whistleblowers, or the new recruits you're talking about, have to fit into that new format, is what they're going to report. They have no idea what they're talking about. They've not had any real experiences. You want to go to a true experiencer that can really talk about it. But it's going to come across as, you have the experience, and it's hard to share that. You can tell the story, but to really get it in there, that other person you're telling has to have that experience to totally understand. And I think that's what they're I don't think they're targeting experiencers. At the same time, how often have you heard from an experiencer anymore? And another thing, super soldiers. There's super soldier programs out there, on podcasts. They're talking about, as a child, this, that, and the other. Those stories have become so repetitive. I used to follow one for a little bit because I started realizing that it was part of that program. And then as it went on, I heard more and more women getting into it, and all the physical and rape and all these other, every single one of them had the exact same story. But there would be a little twist in there that made it personal for them. So when you hear all this stuff, I'm listening to everything. Over time, I was like, you kind of start hearing the same scenario. It's crap. It's what it is. It's just a bunch of crap being passed around.
Yeah.
So when you get into that, you can't listen. My ears fill up and I can't listen to it anymore. They actually physically start to hurt. So I can't listen to that anymore. And so when you get into that, you're having people jumping in and trying to make money off it part-time. Maybe that's one thing they do for money. Do this for money. We'll jump in, but it's become a money thing now. And people start talking about it. You can there's a hollowness to it. It's like, you can put the plates on the table for dinner, but there's no food anymore. There's nothing to feed off of because it's so repetitive. It's actually so dead.
Yeah. Well said on all that. Let me tell you about money in ufology. There's no money in ufology. So if you can get in with like the biggest names and kind of keep that tight circle, then you're doing, UFO movies or, documentaries with these big names. And it's happened with podcasters and whatnot that have kind of been able to kind of play the political game, toe the line a little bit, do that stuff, not really turn on them. But when people do turn on them, they're cast out of the group. It's crazy stuff. And so it reads more like a cult to me than anything else, which is, again, as usual, we're talking about propaganda tonight, of course, UFO propaganda, but in the larger context, it means that the information controlled from the controllers out to the masses is very tightly organized and very tightly curated. And that's for a very specific reason. And that Once again, makes my tinfoil tingle. Go ahead, fellas, chop it up. I'm going to shut my mouth. Everybody's welcome if you want to join the conversation. Friday night is exactly for this, so we can just talk to each other. No radio commercials, no breaks, none of this stuff. We're just going to talk and do the things. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for hanging out and being part of this. Thanks to the panel folks for jumping in, and thanks for caring about what's going on. Go ahead. Whoever's got what else, go right ahead.
I wanted to jump in with a comment about the whistleblowers. And I'm going to take the other side of Herschel and MJ and the blind psychonaut. And I'll use the example of Grush. And so, first of all, there are legislation. There's a whistleblower, protection act. So that's a thing that exists for those type of people. And for David Grush, he worked because he had signed all the NDAs and worked where he did. He worked with the top legal counsel of the Defense Department. They have a special guy who's in charge of this type of things. And he went to him for whistleblower protection. And he worked and met with him for over a year and said, here's what I want to say, here's what I want to tell. And he had to get all of that. He had to get permission for what he could say and what he could not say, and language he had to use. And he's talked about that. He talked about it in the government hearings. And that's why he said he wouldn't say aliens or recovered bodies, and he had to say some phraseology. That was what he was approved to say, of like non-human biologics, I think he said. That was approved for him to say, but they wouldn't let him say little green men or aliens or grays. And so when he's being interviewed on Joe Rogan, and he says, I'm not allowed to talk about that, he's explaining, I've met with and have whistleblower protection up to a certain degree, but there's certain things that if I say, I lose it, and my butt will be in, the Fort Bragg prison or whatever. He'd be brought up on charges. So, and they're strengthening the whistleblower protection. And so I think they are whistleblowers, and I think David Grush had good intent and was doing his best job to go up there and swear under oath and be exposed. And they went after him and they attacked him for, some mental health issues he had a decade before, and tried to discredit him because he went up there and I think told the truth as he knew it or believed it. There might have been some disinformation in there. A lot was he didn't have firsthand experience. That was a big problem. But in the closed door sessions they have, and he said, I can brief you in that, those secured rooms or in the private session. I can tell you the names, the places, the locations of this material, but I can't say it in public. And then we were supposed to set up that controlled room where they don't have cell phones and everything like that. And they couldn't get approval. They never got one of those so they could get the real dirt from him. So I think there are some legitimate whistleblowers that they have reasons for saying, I can't talk about that. And they'd be in jail. So
I disagree with what you're saying. I mean, just like they brought up Snowden. If you're a legit whistleblower, you want to get that info out. You're tired of what the government's doing. And Grush, one big problem, like you even said, no firsthand experience. All his info is secondhand. Two, he's already saying things that we've heard for decades. Nothing new. And then the meanings you're bringing up are called skiffs.
Right, skiffs.
Oh. So he can tell people have clearance. But again, how's that a whistleblower? You're trying to get information out to the public so we know that any question they ask him that's beyond what we know. Oh, well, I can't say that. Well, if you're a real whistleblower, I feel you throw caution to the wind and you get that info out. And if you have to, go to a country that can't extradite you, like Snowden or Julian Assange, who hid in a embassy for 12 years. So,
Well,
I mean,
one thing is you said that he didn't say anything we haven't known for decades. Well, nobody got up in front of Congress and took an oath, and there hadn't been a UFO hearing in Congress in 50 years. So he did say a lot of stuff on the record under oath that most people had never heard unless they're a UFO buff. And yeah, you make a point that if you were the whistleblower, you would make that choice. But, people are different. Some people have family. Some people have children. Some people aren't, in those people's like Snowden's position where, he's willing to flee the country and doesn't have a wife and kids. And so everybody has a different situation. And so for somebody to say, I want to do as much good as I can, but I'm not going to ruin my whole life over this. And there's other people that have the information, so they do what they can. I think that's reasonable. It's understandable. It's human nature, to.
Then it should have a different definition. Then, like, we shouldn't call them whistleblowers. We should have a different word for what Gresh did and Lou Alessandro's doing. Like those guys.
That is a whistleblower under the law. That's the legal definition. They have whistleblower protection. You can look it up. I've read it in the.
Yeah, but you can change the definition of anything anytime you want to. Then, and then words don't mean anything. There has to be, they do that all the time. They change the definition of a thing because they wanted people to do it, and because of the thing that there was a health issue and there was a scientific word for this treatment, and they changed the definition of the scientific word for the treatment to try to give it legitimacy because it wasn't legitimate. So that's the thing. Like, words have meanings. You can't keep just moving the goalposts. There's whistleblowers, and then maybe you can call them. Then we should maybe say government whistleblowers, so that we know the difference. There's actual whistleblowers, real, legit, true, honest whistleblowers who are taking the risk and doing the thing, and then there's the government approved whistleblowers. Maybe that's what we should call them. The ones with the rubber stamp from Congress.
Real quick, hold on. Wait.
That's a legitimate source of information.
Let me get in here, bros. One sec. So just a reminder that this is a conversation. This is not a debate. There doesn't have to be a resolve. Nobody has to win. We don't have to do that. Just a reminder. We're talking about ideas, and that's exactly the point. Just a reminder here. This isn't the rest of the internet. We are troubled minds. And I know it's not getting heated. I'm just trying to cut us off at the past before it turns into you're wrong. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
Well, I just wanted to bring up some counterpoints to what was said about whistleblowers, and a lot of people aren't aware of, whistleblower protection. But yeah, we should probably move on to bigger points. Real quick, Bob Lazar, I don't think he ever made a dime. His reputation got destroyed, and I think the blind psychonaut made a good point about how they tried to erase his records, and luckily he had the old phone book that proved he went to the school where he did, and he had the pay stubs to prove he worked at Los Alamos after they said he never worked here. And it reminded me of that one of the attempted assassins of Trump, where they were like this, wanted us to believe this 24-year-old kid had no internet presence, no social media, no nothing, man. They deleted that guy's stuff so fast it make your head spin. They made him disappear from the internet. I mean, give me a break. So that's part and parcel. And the other Lazar thing was he talked about that Area 51 putting his hand up in that thing that would take a thumbprint or a palm print, and that technology wasn't around or widely known. And 15 years later, they actually found pretty much the exact model of what he had used, and we found out, wow, He was talking about some high tech stuff that we didn't even know the government had. So I don't know. He never claimed he saw alien bodies or anything. He said, "Hey, I was a nuclear physicist. They took me to work on the engine thing. I couldn't figure it out." He said,
I
"Yeah,
think
nobody else did."
I think he actually did.
So
I think he
in
did.
5 years,
I think he made that
look at
claim. Just real quick, I think he made that claim. I think he did talk about the specifics of walking by a room and seeing some bodies, whatever. That he even said later he thought were fake or something, like they were trying to like game him or something. But he did say that he saw. Yeah. But anyway, go. Just wanted to add that.
Saw
in
like
there.
a leg or a foot or something like that.
Yeah,
I
something.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah, something like that. He made that claim. So, and again, but he said I didn't believe it was an alien or something to that effect. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a UFO historian. This is just sort of stuff. And this is the beautiful part about this, by the way. So, let's say we're not collectively UFO historians per se, right? But what we're dealing with is how the zeitgeist repercussions of these narratives kind of flow through us. So this is an important part of it because, everybody can kind of point to this or that or the other thing and go, oh, this, that, this. But then given the entirety of it, I think things get complicated. I just wanted to point that out because you said that he said he never saw alien bodies. He did, as far as I'm aware, but he thought they were fake, which means they were trying to game him in some capacity. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
That's interesting. Well, and I want to echo something MJ said that I resonate with. And, if you want to call me an experiencer, I don't know. I always thought about that word like people that were abducted. But, I had my close up encounter of the second kind with a large silent anti-gravity craft 800 feet away and couple hundred feet above the ground. And once, like MJ said, when you've had the experience and you're talking to somebody who doesn't, then the best you can do is tell your story. They can't relate and they may or may not believe you. But once you've had that experience, you're changed. You're forever changed in a fundamental way. And I don't know, whether it was a government anti-gravity shift or it came from elsewhere. I don't know. I'll never know. I know it was anti-gravitic system. Definitely. Absolutely. Positively. And so, like MJ said, if it was government, man, they were flying into a subdivision in the mountains that has 200 residents and, 10 o'clock at night, and they didn't care if anybody saw it. And apparently they put lights on the things for some reason, So yeah, they're all around. I mean, look at the Phoenix Lights. That thing was seen over 3 states in 4 hours. That thing was aloft. And Michael, talk about, the size of a football stadium. So yeah, apparently whether they're alien or government, they don't care if they get seen. And I did also want to say, though, I think there are a lot of people interested in UFOs. I'm on a couple of groups on Facebook that they have 400,000 members, 600,000 members. And, also over 50% of people believe in, UFOs that are alien. So most of the population actually believes in it. I don't know how much they research it or study it, but
Well said. Go ahead, guys. We got Ricky over on X, so we'll bring him in a sec. But who's got anything on that? Lots of stuff here. Just to recap real quick, we're talking about this. The new thing. The new thing that popped is that basically it seems like in signal groups and other things that there are shadow entities. I'm calling them that because they're as yet named, that are trying to recruit up and coming UFO influencers with information. And not only that, so Joe says this, UFO Joe Murgia, Kelly Chase says this, UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. Again, I got the links, so I'll drop them in the chat or they'll be in the description for sure if you want to check it out. UFO Joe said this, last year I had someone who was very close with Lou Elizondo send me a signal audio message talking about an alleged signal that had been picked up and was heading towards Earth. Not sure on the date, but it seemed to remember 2031 or 2033. They did not tell me who told them that info, but I assumed it was Lou. They deleted that audio message. And the date he's talking about, of course, is the information that they're using is to tell somebody that an alien craft is coming and will be here at a particular date, and that's the insider information. But then, of course, then they start sort of giving them other information that is UFO propaganda, right? Oh, this was really top secret. You can't really say anything about this, but this is so. I mean, it is the ultimate manipulation of people that are locked into, again, fame. They're locked into, money. That are locked into I want to believe syndrome. Locked into all these things. And don't get me wrong. I can see it both ways. I can get it that the world is, the cosmos is more mysterious than we could ever dream. But also, clearly, that is going to be used against us in a manipulation tactic. And like I said earlier, I think Bob Lazar was the beta test of that, and we're dealing with sort of this at scale now because the internet has made it scaled. So I don't know. You tell me. As usual, that's my take. I'm not the arbiter of anybody's truth, barely my own. So I'm just another guy in the chat talking about these wild ideas. Let's get Ricky in here in a second. And actually, let's do it right now. Ricky, what's up, brother? Let's make sure you cross tests and everything works. Ricky on X, are you there? Test 1, 2.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear him?
Talk a little bit.
Discord guys, can you hear him?
No.
Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
Okay, just making sure. Go ahead, Ricky.
Good. Yes, it's pretty wild. When I got home, I seen the Discord and y'all posting the comment, the tweets and stuff, and I was like, hey, I did see Stephen Greer. He started a podcast, and like the first few lines, he said something's coming out soon, and so I'm going to make a place where people can get good information from. So I'm kind of with you with my little, my tinfoil hat is glowing right now. It's got a beacon going on top of it and saying, what is going on here? Because, he said that the night before, and today we get all this. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of like a setup.
Yeah.
Especially with the inaugurations right around the corner, in 3 days. And is it a distraction? Is it, what is it? It's kind of makes me ask questions more than have hope.
Yeah, it does feel orchestrated, doesn't it? Like it's almost they've planned these disclosure, the cascades of disclosure, whatever this looks like. And you in a ever changing media landscape that we're always dealing with, you can't plan too far ahead, but certainly you could plan 6 months ahead or a year ahead. I mean, look at election cycles and stuff. They're on the game with this every 2 years. They know exactly how much time they have before this has to happen and everything else. So I think as far as propaganda goes, for sure, they're locked into that. But welcome to the joint. That's Ricky on X. Anything on that? And then we'll just chop it up back to the boys. Everybody's welcome tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, just put your hand up over there on Discord or on X, and we'll jump you in. Pretty please, when other people are speaking, just mute up your mics too, so there's no, chewing or drinking or clicking or the rest of that stuff. Appreciate that. But go ahead, Ricky, what else you got? And then we'll get it back to the
it does seem like it's, you have, I don't know, to me, the more I've looked into stuff and I've been conspiracy theorist, critical thinking for years and years, ever since after 9/11, and it's kind of like it truly is the last couple of years. It's especially since 2020, we'll say it that way. Since 2020, I mean, everything's been it's like everything's been, the dial has been turned all the way to 10, and everything's wrapped up. Everything's kind of fast forward, fast paced. The whole, all the stuff on the, down there, in DC with all the different hearings and stuff on UFOs and UAPs, changing the name to UAP, all that kind of stuff is all just, it does, again, like, it does feel orchestrated. It just feels like it's setting us up for a major distraction in my mind, and it's something crazy and big going to happen. But is it going to be real, or is it going to be is it going to be fake as hell? It's a good question. We had the SpaceX, blow up yesterday. It's just kind of crazy the last few days and stuff. And the only other thing, real quick, I was thinking about, I'm kind of with Matthew on the whistleblower. I can see both sides of that whistleblower. Hey, you want to have all this information out, but look who you're messing with. It's like like if you look at an old movie, you're messing with the mob, and man, they'll murder your whole family and not even blink an eye. And who you're dealing with is in the same mindset of that. So you truly, if you have family or if you have friends or anything, then it's hard to step on a lot of toes. Like, you want information out, you want to try to do as best you can, but then you want to be, riding that fence. And if you fall over the fence the wrong direction, they're going to squish you. And I can kind of see that, but it does get aggravating. You see him on Rogan, you see Lou and them on Rogan and saying the same things. You see him in front of Congress and stuff, and Congress is asking them questions. They're like, well, you can't, I can't say that. You can look at my book and see what I want to say. What I can say. You can look at my book and see what I'm actually able to say. With Lou, that one irks me. He's like, hey, you got to buy my book, so
Exactly.
what the hell.
Exactly.
What the hell is that? But
You're like sitting there in Congress. You've actually been sworn in, and they ask you the question like, you got to buy the book. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, that's the type of stuff, again, that makes your tinfoil tingle. Another weird thing with Lou too, just as an aside regarding the book. So he did the Joe Rogan podcast right after he released the book, and he never mentioned his book. It was incredibly weird. And then, kind of people came after him after the fact, and he was like, oh, well, I wasn't there to talk about my book. I was there to talk about, the stuff. And so, I don't know, there's just some really weird curating of the information as part of it, right? So you're sworn into Congress, and you have Congress people asking you questions. You're like, you got to buy the book, but you won't bring it up. You bring up your book on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, I'm just saying, there's some plot holes, as I've been saying for a long time. Go ahead.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't care what I'm talking about. If I had something like that, if I just released a book, even if I'm talking about something else, I'm going to have at least a 5-second plug. Like, oh, by the way, I know you got 50 million people watching you right now. Oh, by the way, go to Amazon and check out my new book. Something. I mean, it just wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make financial sense of anything to not say something on Rogan. It just little things like that just makes you ask more questions and stuff.
Yeah, plot holes, as I always say. There's plot holes in this entire thing, which I think is intentional. But I think it may be that the players involved don't even know they're players, right? Don't even know they're pawns yet. They think they're like the knight or the rook or the bishop. Nope. And they're probably all pawns, or many of them, most of them. But back to the panel. You're the best. That's Ricky over there on Twitter X. Wait, so are you on a browser? How are you hearing it? Because some people bounced and said the audio's crappy on X. How are you hearing this?
I was listening to it. I was hard listening, and I was listening to it, and I was like, well, I'm going to stay on here. And it was kind of in and out. But actually, when I turned around and once I became a speaker, it popped me up to be a speaker on there. It cleared out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which makes no sense. But yeah, once I went to speaker, it completely, everything went back to clear. Clear the bell.
Okay, well, there you go. Things you didn't know. We're talking. I'm calling it the UFO shadow faction tonight, influencing the influencers, which seems to be something that's leaking out now, and people are talking about this. I wonder who knows what in the deepest recesses of the ufology influencer game of who's been manipulated, who's been offered information to sort of press certain narratives. And again, this has long been a theory of mine that this has been happening behind the scenes, and now it's kind of being validated, not by Jeremy Corbell also. UFO Joe says he had this happen. Kelly Chase of the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. Again, I'll have these links in the description if you want to check it out. Go check it out on X. It's all on there right now. It's kind of breaking as part of this UFO revolution on a TMZ presentation that's now free on Tubi. But yeah, go ahead, boys, chop it up. Everybody's welcome. Put your hand up, get your ass in here, and let's talk about this, because I think this is important, because we're dealing with reality tunnels of propaganda and crisscrossing this and that and trying to sort of manipulate different groups and subgroups of people. And this is why this is important that we talk about this together, because we're just regular people thinking about extraordinary ideas, and propaganda certainly plays. Go ahead. Whoever's got what else, whoever's been quiet the longest or whatever.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
For everyone. Why do you think they changed it from UFO to UAP? Now, I think they put the word phenomenon in there. This is my personal opinion, is to make it not seem so extraterrestrial, but more of like a natural phenomenon or thing happening. Because when I hear a phenomenon, that makes me think of something like naturally happening instead of like a mechanical or from like an entity that's producing it. But what do you guys think?
That's interesting. I was going to jump in. That was going to be my first comment, was the UAP. And so that's unidentified anomalous phenomena. I've heard people say aerial phenomenon. No, that's what they're trying to get away from. But apparently, from everything that I've heard, the primary reasons they did this is typically UFO, you think flying through the air, right? Well, then they came up with USOs, unidentified submerged objects that go into the ocean or come out of the ocean or go back and forth. And then we have the things that are like orbs or plasma spheres. And they have, reports of the sphere with the cube in it from the Air Force pilots. So, and also because they're anti-gravity, flying, they're more levitating or something. And so when they adopted UAP, I liked it because it's more inclusive, and it's saying there's a lot of different phenomena that we're seeing. And some are the old school UFOs, but some are in and out of water, transmedium, some are going up to outer space and zipping down in 1 second flat. Some seem to disappear, like they're trans-dimensional objects. Some seem to be plasma. And so it's more inclusive. I do think it also gets away from necessarily people associating UFOs with aliens, which actually is kind of good, because a lot of it, probably the majority of it, a lot of people say 90% of it, it's all government stuff. So to maybe get away from traditional thinking and include these other phenomena or things we're seeing, I think it's a good thing. I'm in favor of it. I didn't like it at first. Michael and I talked about, Freedom of Information Act things, but apparently that's not a legit thing. But anyways, I'm glad you brought it up. That's my answer. It's to be more inclusive.
Well, I understand that. I mean, like I said, the word phenomenon to me feels more of like a natural thing that's happening. But yeah, I don't know. I just say stick with what we've always heard. And then a comment to what Michael said earlier about Jeremy Corbell, like in that clip, like, you really want me to tell you? Are you sure? Really? And it's like, yeah, I agree with you, Michael. It's like, spit it out, bro. Come on. We want to freaking hear it. Not playing these stupid ass games. I've even heard him on other interviews where he's like, oh yeah, I have photographs and stuff, but I'm holding on to it at the right time. It's like, what? Just put it out, man. Like,
yeah.
I know you're trying to like make some money and stuff, but like, if you're like legit trying to spread the word, it's like, what are you doing? To me, it's just, it gets annoying.
It's grating. I agree with you. And he says he's not in it for the money, by the way. He's like a passionate guy, because he apparently he makes his money from real estate investments, he says. So he's not even, like really pressing this other than like his interest in it. I can play this clip again. You guys are down for like another minute clip to kind of reframe it for the people that didn't hear because we started out with this. Everybody good to just play like a 1 minute thing real fast with we got
roll it.
Yeah, Derek and Daryl as well. Hang tight. Let me play this again and reframe this to get to exactly what Shane is pointing out. We're talking about this. TMZ presents the UFO revolution. It's free on Tubi now, and Jeremy Corbell said exactly this. And this is right to the heart of what Shane is saying. It's maddening. It's maddening. Here you go.
Your government now wants you to know one truth, and that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already told you. Sometimes when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie, and that's coming. I have zero doubt that lie is coming.
What is the lie?
Specifically, you want me to say it right now, for real? On camera, to be put in the show?
Yes.
Okay. Problem with that. If we tell the lie before it's told, they can adapt. That wouldn't be wise. I'll tell you privately, but I would really think about if you want to put this in your show. For real. That's a real thing I'm telling you. So will you think about it before putting it in your show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For realsies, pinky swears. and then he goes on to just tell him. And this is the deal. This is the exact revelation. You ready? So you're going to be told there is a craft on its way to Earth. That 100% is the lie you were going to be told. Jeremy Corbell, as transcribed by UFO Joe. Shout out Joe Murgia. Again, follow these people if you're interested in the latest in UFO stuff. But yeah, I feel you, Shane. Like, for realsies, pinky swear. Are we really going to do this on camera? And then, he can do some stuff. He can't do other stuff. Bro, spit it the fuck out, right? Anyway, welcome, Daryl. Welcome, Derek. Everybody chop it up. Go ahead. I'm going to shut my mouth. And what's your take on this? This is incredible that they're using this, quote, lie to influence influencers. Yeah, right?
Well, Project Bluebeam. That's what he's talking about.
Right.
Kind of. I mean, not if you're saying there's a mothership that's headed to Earth and it's going to be here in 2036 or something. That's not Bluebeam at all. That's, well.
It's like a three-body problem. It's like a fake version of a three-body problem, but they got some kind of radio announcement, and they're trying to get the arrival ready. Except instead of 100 years from now, it's 2036 or 2033 or whatever. But I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Everything else set?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I wouldn't believe anything the government would say from this point on. It's a setup, and it's a false alarm. They're going to create a false alarm to control us over. The disease didn't work, so let's try an alien invasion. That's their last resort. I think it's their last resort. If you can't trust the people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, please don't get us taken off of YouTube with that stuff. But I know what you're saying. I know. No, you're good. You're good. I'm just kind of cutting you off at the pass before you go into specifics and say the buzzwords. We are on YouTube. But yeah,
I'm not going to say anything, but I wouldn't believe it. They have holograms. You've seen the holograms that they can make. They're incredible. I mean, with the AI right now, we wouldn't know what was real and what wasn't. We would be forced to really scratch our heads. And I think they're going to wait until their technology is that good that you can't tell the difference. And then you're going to put Jesus in the sky, or Buddha, or whatever,
There we
you
go.
believe in.
Valiant Thor.
Valiant Thor.
I heard all of them. I heard it was a theory they're going to put all of them in there, and that way they would have each religion's deities in the sky, and
Right.
have them merge together. That way they can kind of say, hey,
I heard
we're
they're going to blend them.
right.
Yeah, depending on your belief. But I think if they really want to know the truth, they don't ask, this guy or that guy. They ask, get the real experiencers, get the people that have been, that have been abducted. Ask them their experience. Some of them are incredibly credible. Those are the people that have, proof. There's proof of this stuff. I mean, there was that book that was written by this doctor who was, my neighbor was one of them. that they found these implants that are made out of some sort of metal, and nobody, you know, nobody surgically got these implants. You know, they were put in them. My neighbor went to the doctor, and the doctor said, when are you going to get that shrapnel out of your leg?" He goes, "What shrapnel? I didn't do any time. You know, I didn't see any action." He goes, "You definitely have a metal in your leg." He says, "I don't know anything about it." And he showed him on an X-ray. It was like this little boomerang, very small metallic boomerang. And there was a doctor removing them, and they were all pretty much identical from people. Uh, anyway, he suddenly died, and nobody took over his business. But he had about 12 or 19 implants removed, and they all had a mysterious kind of. They were tracking devices, basically. And if that's not proof, I mean, what, that doctor was killed, or maybe he was, you know, he died a little youngish. You know, he had a lot more research to do. And you got to wonder, you know, and nobody picked up his practice. So there's definitely talk to the abductees. I don't know why they don't interrogate them. Even Greer had a panel, like I don't know what year it was. He had David Adair set up to speak at that. And I don't think it happened. I think they canceled it or something, or nobody showed up. I can't remember what happened. He had a full disclosure with very, very qualified, you could say, experiencers. David Adair saw the UFO in Area 54. He touched it. He interacted with it. It responded to him. He described it very well. He described it just like Bob Lazar described it, the same exact description of, you know, that area. And does anyone see this today? That the ice melted in Antarctica and revealed some very modern looking buildings. I don't know if that was like, you know, I don't know if that was CGI or, you know, clickbait or what, but if that's true, holy moly, that was very
Well,
interesting.
you know, I think Daryl, that's a great point you bring up about the abductions.
Yeah.
And here's here's what should make your tinfoil hat tingle. We've had all these congressional committees, and never once does the abduction phenomena come up. And it's a huge part of the story for a lot of people. And yeah, there's books on it and research and regressions for decades. And they don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. We are not talking about abductions. That's a no-no.
It is weird. It's a great point. Is that it's the decentralization of the experiencer versus the government, and so not touching it discredits it. And this happened recently with Jason Sands. You guys see this? So I'll rebrief this in a second. Go ahead, Derek. We kind of cut you off a little bit there. What you got?
No, that's all right. Yeah, I just the Corbell thing just makes me cringe like crazy. That clip is just like, geez Louise, he's so lame. You know, I don't like to like shit on people, but he's just like such a dweeb to me. He's just like so annoying. He just seems like you're talking about kind of these like mashups and these kind of amalgamations of the different like theories and ideas and tropes and things that kind of get like thrown out there. He seems like an amalgamation of a person. He's like, like if you threw Joe Rogan and like the Vice TV station into a machine and cranked and like gave him like he's like does jujitsu and has a weird like hipster beard, and he just looks like a cartoon character trying to like give this information out, and none of it seems genuine at all. Like none of it resonates as being a real thing. And at the very least, he's like giving it this weird kind of veneer of the way he does docs, where he's like, I don't know, it's so cringy. I don't know, it's really cringy. It's like it doesn't seem real. And he's like an example of what I would think of as somebody who's controlling the narrative on purpose. But I think like most of it and a lot of it is just, at this point, there's so much UFO lore, there's so much like things to study and stuff if you want to get into this topic and everything, and that's being used against us. They're kind of like flooding the block with information. People can't really tell which way is up, and half the information is going to be fake, half the information is going to be from people who believe it to be real, but it's not, you know. And whether they're like getting the smoking man to tell them lies or they're experiencing lies, like the experience is not enough for me, because you can, A, there's MK Ultra, B, the memory is like a very, very slippery fish and stuff. Who knows what they can do to us with radio waves or who knows what. And it's like I'm only 3/4 of the way through X-Files, but it seems like I'm disappointed in like the previous generation for not getting kind of what Chris Carter was saying. It's like mainly Mulder's being messed with. Like there's weird stuff happening. Like Mulder is seeing weird stuff, but like mainly he's being messed with. And like and he's not lying. Like he's a trustworthy person, but he's being lied to a ton. So I just think we need to kind of like separate ourselves a little bit from the lore and try to like remake sense of what's happening, because we get in this conversation and it just becomes kind of like busting out peacock feathers to see how many documentaries you've watched and how many names you can bring up, when it's like they could all be lying, or it could all be fake, or it could all be jargon. And just like, I'm so sick of Bob Lazar. You know what I mean? Like, who cares if he's true or not? You know, to be honest, that's just how I feel about it. Like, it's like we're not getting anywhere having that same debate for the last 30 years. Like, that came out the year I was born. You know, and we're no closer to deciding whether or not he was true or not. And I don't even think it matters. You know, I think they're intentionally flooding the block with mis and disinformation. I think it's generous to think that they're like hiding in some lies with the majority of truth. I think it's probably like an iceberg of truth with a like real underbelly of lies and stuff. And I think like especially when we get into the weirder aspects of the phenomena, they're shaping it. I think that's why they're ignoring anything but the nuts and bolts, anything but the technological aspects of it, because that's the goals that they have. They're technology driven, so they're shaping it, the phenomena, to how they want it and stuff. But I think it's real tricky, and I just get kind of fed up with the bickering over the lore, like the Corbells beefing with the Greers, beefing with the Elizondos and stuff, and it's just like, shut up, you know? Really, like, you're getting us nowhere, any of you.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's wild about that too is they've basically curated themselves into like Republican and Democrat style factions, and like and like a third party faction. And it feels like politics. And this is wait, bros, this is UFOs. Why are we doing this? But this is what it feels like. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just, I don't know. It just feels disingenuous. It just kind of rubs it the wrong way. But I'm here to just chill. We can just chop it up. I don't have a bunch of notes or anything. We can kind of just talk a little bit.
Right on. Just making sure to peel out some time for you, because I know you most times you're from work. So just making sure that we don't run over you for like you took a break or something. We just burn over you for the entire time. But yeah, right on. That's Derek. Go ahead, Matt.
Quick comment on what you just said, Michael. I think that ties into what I said, that these people get fed disinfo, and they get fed different ones, so they start infighting, and it leads to, like you were saying, the political parties, because each one of them is believing a certain amount of bullshit, and that's why they disagree, because they're just talking about different lies they were fed. That makes sense to me.
You know, I think some of them get fed lies that they know, and then some get fed lies they don't know, if that makes much sense. And then I wanted to comment on the super soldier, because I don't know, it's just weird to me that the ones that I remember when I could see what they look like, they all look like dad bods. It's like they don't look like they would be like a SEAL or someone that would be a super soldier. And then all of them, their stories get like,
leave the dad bods alone. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're gonna be claiming you're you know, going around the galaxy and like destroying and mopping up, you know, 10-foot aliens and destroying them, and you look like, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just, in my mind, it's like,
yeah, Barney Rubble is not on Mars slaying aliens.
But that's what. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just saying that's what it seems like to me. It's like, and then their stories get so crazy as like the more they come out. Like, I think I said this like a few weeks ago. I'm not going to name any names, but like the story they first told was like, okay, well, maybe that happened, and then like 2 years into their journey, now they're talking about they're going to like inner Earth and riding like this 100-foot being with like dreadlocks that are like 4 feet thick, and he's swinging on them like Tarzan to get across like 100-foot gaps. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, it's fan fiction. And if you look at, I mean, I think they're kind of like, you're right. We talked about a few weeks ago, but they're trying to like, I don't think I'm alone when being bored, but kind of the UFO 101 kind of narratives and stuff. And a lot of these kind of mainstream UFO shows just talk about the same thing all the time. And it's boring to me, but they know that like people are thirsty for weird conspiracies. People are thirsty for like weird novelty and stuff. And so they try to inject that best they can. Best they can. Like, so you get like the Wilcock and the like the Emery and all that kind of stuff. Like, and some of them could be liars, but I think a lot of times they just pick people who have these kind of weird narratives. Like, if any of this stuff, you're just going to get like weird people who just want attention and they're just going to make up experiences and they're going to make up weird stuff. And you can rise them up as far as you want to and give them as big a platform as you want. You can toss them on Ancient Aliens and put like an important name underneath their title, and all of a sudden you give them like a spot on Contacting the Desert and stuff, and they get credibility and they can fun guy and do all kind of weird stuff. And I just don't trust it. But it seems like the narrative of a super soldier fits pretty well for like the last 15 years we had of the Zeitgeist, but like superheroes were the biggest thing bumping as far as like Hollywood's concerned and everything. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they fed us super soldier stories and that kind of stuff, kind of feeding what the Zeitgeist wants, and now it's kind of transmuting. And when you were saying like the dad bod thing, my first instinct was like to say, oh well, they'll just say they weren't in their bodies when they were doing it. They were astral projecting. They were doing all kind of stuff. Like, and then I don't know. You can get. It seems these things seem outlandish, but then if you go to these like Facebook groups and look at the comments and stuff, more people believe it, at least as far as the comments would show, than don't believe it. So what are you guys like even looking at and stuff? And just, I don't know, it seems like a bunch of shepherds corralling people who are thirsty and hungry for coolness and for information, and is leading them down these weird rabbit holes, leading them into these pens and stuff. And then people fighting about, well, my rabbit hole, my pen is better, my cage is better. Like, haven't you seen this documentary? What about this? How do you explain this and stuff? It's like, I don't know. I really feel like we make it's cooler to listen to the show, like our conversations that we have with each other, than like listen to the boring stuff that they talk about on these bigger, huge platforms. It might as well be Oprah talking about stuff from 1992.
Exactly right. Hey, real quick on the ancient alien stuff. So Giorgio Tsoukalos, the big hair guy, everybody knows him, right? The meme, it's aliens or whatever, right? So that guy, when that show first started, his credential on the screen was publisher, Legendary Times Magazine. And so I was watching this back in the day. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Legendary Times Magazine. Like, I wonder what that is. And I go look, and you know what it is? It's not a magazine at all. It's a web forum. It's like one of those PHPBB web forums for like 1995. And it's like, 1997, probably 98. But it's basically just a web forum. And so he called it, I guess, Legendary Times. You can trade, it's all up. I think it's still all up there. But I went to check because I wanted to see. I'm like, wow, this sounds like an amazing thing. And I went to see where I could, maybe get an issue of it. I wanted to like kind of, have it tactically and the tactile feeling of it in my hands and flip the pages and see what amazing stuff it is. Nope, it's a web forum. I mean, it's like not to demean that. That's amazing. We're kind of doing like a audio web forum together. But like, if that's your credential, then we're all credentialed, bros, sisters. This is the way it is now. We're all credentialed because we're all officially troubled minds, aren't we? but Legendary Times, look it up. Go fact check me. Go fact check me. I'm right.
I'm just really jealous of Giorgio for his hair, man. I miss my hair.
He must be waking up every morning just counting follicles, making sure his hairline's not receding. It's just that's the money in the bank for him. That's the money maker.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love the meme that they did of him. It's like, it's aliens, and he's like all excited. I don't know. I remember that one.
Exactly. We got to
Ancient Aliens changed the game. Like,
yeah, it did. It did. Well, it just means that everybody's credentialed. And I want to shout this out in the chat because it's hilarious. Bailey, shout out Bailey. Monochrome on Discord says, quote, Bailey Stoner, infrequent caller, troubled minds. That's your credential. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Suddenly,
AI demon expert.
There you go. Exactly. Suddenly, you do something like that, and then you go search it. You go Google, what is troubled minds, right? And then suddenly, this whole thing kind of opens up, and then boom, there you go. Hey, there you go. It's official. I've credentialed all of you. We've done it together. We've made it on the interwebs, and go ahead and create whatever you want and credential back to us. Exactly, right?
We are experts. We are experts now. We put it on a resume.
Real quick, what you said about the comment about the astral projection, I think that's what a lot of them are doing, are either dreaming, lucid dreaming, astral projection. Because they always, that's the way I feel, especially when they tell their stories and, well, I can't really remember it, and, well, it's fuzzy, and it kind of, just the way they explain it is how I experienced my lucid dreams and astral projections. It's like the same thing, and a lot of like your dreams, lucid dreams, they can feel super freaking real, like to the point where I've had some where like I forget I'm dreaming or lucid dreaming, and I'm like, shit, this is like real life, and then like my phone goes off, and it's like, oh damn. But that's what I think a lot of them are experiencing is vivid dreaming, lucid dreaming, and astral projection.
Yeah.
I can get behind that and chime in, and I've definitely seen and dealt with some stuff in astral travels that was definitely, you would say, warfare like, and I don't talk about it, but I can totally see that as having those kind of experiences. Now, that doesn't mean they're not real in a sense or legit. It just means maybe they're misinterpreting it as like they're going off world in a government ship and doing this. But I can get on board with that idea.
Well, some of them, real quick, some of them say, I passed, we did a lie detector test. Well, again, if you're dreaming, lucid dreaming, astral projection, it can be so believable to you that you legitimately believe it and will pass a lie detector test because you think it happened to you. So, I mean, it's cool that they passed it, but still, again, that's what they believe. Does that mean if that's true? Now, I'm not trying to say, experiences aren't experiencing what they experience, but I think some of them, that's what they fall into as lucid dreamers or vivid dreamers or having even out of body or astral projections. I'll shut up now.
Yeah. No. But exactly, and there's debating whether or not people are lying, like a liar or telling the truth is wasted effort. I feel like because A, you're not gonna be able to prove it, and B, it's just way more complicated than that. Like if the smoking man and his entourage of this weird cabal is messing with Mulder, and the experience that he saw was fake, he's gonna pass that lie detector test, but he's still the experience that he's trying to pass around to people. Tell the what is it? The what are the three guys? The conspiracy guys. Damn it, I'm blanking. Whatever. But the consciousness is, I think, probably the most important part of the whole thing. So they're like getting us to pay attention to certain things. So these kind of, I don't think that when these things are like lies or facades or veneers that they lose value, but I think we're just kind of looking at them in the way that they're telling us to look at them. And I think there's like other ways to look at them, like rather than being like, oh, this UFO Congress thing was a big nothing burger, when it probably was. Like to kind of squint your eyes a little bit, and it's kind of this UFO weird mass. And go down to the one in Mexico where they're rolling out, if that thing was a paper mache, whatever, mixed with like bones of animals and bones of people, and made to look like a alien, or if it was an alien. In both cases, it's interesting. In one case, it's an alien that they rolled out. In the other case, they put this weird kind of voodoo contraption of animal blood and human blood to look like a strange creature, and they rolled it out in this building that's covered in ancient symbols and in runes and all kinds of weird stuff. That, like, I think it all has value, and I think that like they're able to, I don't know. And the experience is just like people can, like, we're in a paradigm now where, like, from children, we're in a science paradigm. So even if you're not into UFOs, if you have some type of like religious experience or some kind of like 5-dimensional, call it astral experience, out of body experience, or like biblically accurate angel experience or whatever, that the filter that your mind experiences that through might be a craft and might look like a birthing experience with a bright light and people in lab coats and stuff, because that's kind of an archetypical thing that's in your brain or whatever, filtered through with the science paradigm that you spent the last 50 years going through or whatever. But it might not necessarily, and you're not lying when you tell the experience, and nobody's wrong to quote your experience, but that might not be actually what happened. Like, and so we're like, but it's people are fighting over it, and that becomes a book, and somebody references that book and references a podcast, and then you get Tsoukalos, who it becomes this like caricature. And even though people know he's a caricature, there's still like a gravity, this influence or gravity around him, where like if he goes, "Hey Mike, can I come on the show?" I would be like, "Hey Mike, bring him on." Yeah, that's cool. Like to bring him on, even though I know he's bullshit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because he has a gravity. He has some kind of gravity. So, and that, I don't know. We're dealing with a slippery. It's real slippery, and we just get. I just don't like the bickering about the. What about this nothing but story from a guy in the military or blah 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 blah. Like I don't know. Just we're not getting anywhere. Like that's what we've been doing for 30 years. Like we're not getting anywhere with that. You know.
And it continues.
We get farther in the show.
Yeah, it continues to be the production, like this series. I don't know, like we could cut a series like this. I mean, you know, some stock images, some Getty stuff, some some actual specific shots of public testimony. You know, the gimbal footage like they're doing on the thing I'm showing here. I mean. Like the editing's the hard part, because right, like we played the thing with the dramatic music and the bum 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 and the zooming in and zooming out. Like that's like 90% of the damn thing's the editing anyway. But exactly, we've been playing this same damn game for as long as I've been alive, as long as probably everybody else here's been alive. It's frustrating. It is frustrating. Is that it almost feels like it's intentional, which is a disappointing part.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Someone else go. I'm talking too much, but I got a little bit longer.
Well, you brought up. That's funny that you brought up the Mexican alien mummies, because Michael, I sent you that stuff about that just the other day. I don't know if you got time. Did you get to look at that, or?
I'm very familiar with it without even looking at what you sent me. Yes, I've been in this game for long enough to have deep dived most of this stuff. So whatever you sent me, I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with what you got.
Well, did you listen to the second hearing they had?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like not in its entirety. Like I usually when I listen to these things, I'll come home. Like we used to not do these on Friday night, so I'd come home on like a Friday night. I'd put it on and let it flow, and then kind of. Dip in and dip out of it every, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there type of stuff. So most of the stuff I've heard, I am up to date on most of the stuff. But what's the thing that I'm missing that you want to point out? That's probably more accurate to kind of attack it that way instead of asking me what I know.
Oh no, I was just curious. I'm just on the fence about it, because I mean the second hearing because on the Mexican Congress on their YouTube. They had that whole hearing up for like a couple of days, and then they took it off. And you can only find like podcasts that talk about it. You can't like find that. I can't, at least. Maybe other people can. And then they were just stuff was just published in a peer review about the research journal. Yeah, it was. I think it was in a South American journal. From like the name I could hear, but it's just weird to me. I know they're not calling them aliens or anything, but I think they're calling them tridactyl humanoids. Now, I don't know. Are they real? From the research that was given, but obviously I can't examine like the photos, and what I've been told it kind of look like ET. The ones that they presented, and I think that who was it? Jamie Masson or whatever his name was. I think he went about it wrong. The first hearing was not presenting like everything they had, and I think that's kind of where it fell short with a lot of like the world's media. Because I mean, you're gonna make these insane claims, but you don't have like the scientists and all the like your documents to back it up. So I can see why it's like, is that a cake? Because I heard someone like some meme went around that was like a cake or
yeah, I
paper
saw
mache.
that. Where they're cutting the cake of the alien, the body or whatever. It's like you guys ever seen that old Tom Petty video, Running Down a Dream? I know I'm dating myself. It's really old, but it's like Alice in Wonderland, right? And at the end of it, she's like laying there on the table, and her body's basically a cake, and like Tom Petty's the Mad Hatter, and they're like cutting like the cake and like eating her. It's so creepy. It's so creepy. It's so creepy. Yeah, back then, like Tom Petty was a dream engineer right there to giving us nightmares into the next generation. Yeah, well, fire stuff. We got Jorge coming up. I'm gonna bump you up here, but go ahead. Whoever's got what else, I'll shut up.
Well, my comment on the Mexico thing or wherever it was somebody had some pretty big cojones to, if you're just got BS to go to that level of extreme and international attention, you got some big cojones to try and pull that off. And I saw an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and apparently they invited him down there to check him out and examine him. And, I don't like Neil very much, but, and he said, no, I'm not going to go. You need to get like some biologist and DNA expert. I'm a physicist. I don't know what that stuff is. You should get some experts, but I'm not the guy.
What happened to Neil?
Yes, gravity.
The other thing I was going to mention is those weird kind of big skulls that don't have the right number and type of plates and those suture type things. And I think that was on Ancient Aliens. And they've got those from like 7 different countries of the world and stuff. So, who knows if there's some anomalous phenomena in the archaeological record,
Yeah. I believe in the possibility of it. I'm fascinated by it, and I like listening to it. But just my gut instinct when they roll that thing out in Mexico is just, that's definitely not real. It looks like those Brian Forrester mummy things, like that he's been peddling, that we've been bringing out for the last 15 years. But like, it just in my gut, it doesn't seem real. I don't know. It could be, and if it is, that's a big deal. But it's still some kind of like weird thing. And like we said it before when it immediately happened, but it immediately became memed on the internet. Immediately, like he gets like that body gets injected into like Radiohead album covers and stuff, and it's immediately memed. People don't take it seriously, but if we're talking meme magic and consciousness thing and trying to manifest something, and there's some kind of formless entity that's trying to acquire form, we got to look at the pop culture. We got to look at the zeitgeist. We got to look at the memes, and it's like, I don't know. That could be an angle and stuff. Things coming through dreams, things coming through experience and stuff. Like, just I don't know. Like, not everybody's lying, but just a lot of the UFO mainstream is to argue about this little section over here that's just talking about nuts and bolts, and then to argue about which of the 6 of them has the right fan fiction around just a tiny little portion of the whole game. I don't think that's kind of like worth our time. And I feel like the questions that are asked on this show that we talk about every single week are more valuable, or at least like more thought provoking, and not something that you could hear on our belt 30 years ago. And they repeating the same thing over and over and over again, just with new names and new players saying updated things, but that still sound shitty. I don't know. But before I
don't have the clip, but I should play it right now. If I had it, I'd play it. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Yeah. And again, like Ancient Aliens was a big deal, and that came out when I was in college and stuff. And like when I first started smoking weed, and I got into these topics because of like watching Ancient Aliens and stuff, and early like old Alex Jones videos where he's yelling at Bohemian Grove through a megaphone and stuff. And these things are gateway drugs for these type of things, so they have positive value. But then if like, I think that they can be also used as they can control the flow of thought too with these different influences. That's their job to influence. So we just gotta be careful not to get caught up in different people's gravity and tides and stuff, and think for ourselves.
Yeah, amen.
That's it.
Amen. Bailey says this too in the chat, Monochrome. I wish 10% of stuff we find nowadays was as good as Art Bell 30 years ago, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Jorge, what's up, brother? And welcome to the joint. Go ahead, Daryl. Make it quick, please, to get Jorge in, and then we'll chop it up.
Preston, if you've ever listened to Preston Dennett, he interviews experiencers, and they all have a lot in common without knowing each other. They have similar experiences, like they get taken aboard a spaceship, they use their mind to guide this spaceship, they go to another galaxy, etc., or they go to another planet, whatever, and they don't know if it's remote viewing or what, but they all have very similar experiences. Like one of them was made to they were told to do chores and clean the ship, and then brush their teeth and brush their hair, and then they found out it was a mothership. Okay.
Damn it! I wasn't ready for that, Daryl.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, sorry.
I owe you.
You threw me off.
Hold on, yeah, exactly. Hold on.
I snuck that in. I snuck it in.
Yeah.
Damn it! There we go. I'm late.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for it.
No, but they don't have that experience. They don't make them clean the ship. But I'm just kidding. But they have very similar experiences. And Preston Dennett has written a lot of books about them. And they're all, if you want the truth, you got to find these experiencers. You got to interview them. You don't want, you pick the best ones. But there's some very compelling stories. Like look at, I think they're dead now. Betty and Barney Hill, for example, the guy that wrote Communion, that they did a movie about, Preston, what's his name? Whitney Strieber.
Yeah.
And Keith, what's his name? I forget his name. And John Polk, who used to be on the Fringe Network, he used to have a radio podcast. Now he went to a conference, and a lot of people were there, and these people walked in, and they had this blue skin. And they were very awkward, with they didn't know what to do with money. They were holding the money funny. They said, well, how much of this do you need to get in? And they wanted to meet John Polk and get his book. And they had this weird blue skin. And it seemed like time froze. Like everybody just froze. Like nobody was aware of them but him. And Keith Andrews was there. He witnessed the whole thing too. And they got a picture of them. Now, from the picture, it's hard to tell that they were blue, but in person, they said their skin was blue. And you hear a lot of people talking about blue aliens. There's a lot of commonalities, but this was like a witnessed experience. Even Whitney Strieber was there and saw them, but he wouldn't speak up about it. For some reason, he speaks up about his own experience, but not a collective one, It would have given.
He's a weird guy too, really.
Yeah,
would have given him a lot of credit,
He's still tweeting up a storm. If you want to go follow Whitley Strieber on X, he's tweeting up a storm.
Right, yeah.
I mean, when he first came out, he got destroyed by South Park. I mean, that's where the whole.
Did they
destroy him?
I mean, that's the whole anal probe.
Oh, is it? Yeah. That goes back further than that for sure. Jorge, you've been quiet for a long time. Go ahead. Welcome to the joint. We're just chopping it up. What's your take on this? Take it anywhere you like.
My take is I don't think you guys really want to know what is really going on.
Sorry.
It's just dangerous. If you think cartels are dangerous, this is even more dangerous. It's like I have an uncle who's a federal. He saw some shit, and he saw some stuff, and he's just, a lot of stuff happens in Mexico. Weird stuff happens in Mexico, and even them, it's like they're not supposed to talk about it. And if you talk about it, they disappear. And the same thing happens here. It's like if it's misinformation, welcome. Yeah, Bob Lazar, bring it. Have him be on the radio. That's cool, man. It's like spread it around. Go to the Senate and talk about it. It's like, yeah, go for it, man. Go talk about what you're supposed to be saying, what's supposed to be saying. But if you really want to know more or less what happened, you have to go to the very beginning with the War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds. Like back in the day, like Heisenberg and Oppenheimer, like they were talking some weird stuff. They were saying about, multiple realities and bending time and bending space and, having the possibility of, being able to peer into that, and all of a sudden you have Orson Welles talking, oh yeah, creatures, green creatures from Mars, traveling through space. Travel through space, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That makes a lot of sense, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, but then multiple realities and bending time and alternate times is like an alternate and bending space. All that stuff just got buried. Yeah, he's like, give him the dumb answer, and they'll be more susceptible to the dumb answer to the really difficult one, which they're never gonna be able to. And if you really talk to people that really talk, like that invisible college people, you don't want to know. And if you do know, shut up, because you don't want to spread this around. And it's because it's just dangerous, not only for yourself, for your family, for like so many people. So I don't know. And you have to ask yourself, why do you really want to know? Because an obsession can be a very powerful and destructive thing. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well said. All that, and I think you're right too. There's a lot of narrators of these particular ideas, and we're not allowed to sort of go outside of them. But the beauty of what Troubled Minds has become is we never really locked into those ideas anyway, and never tried to sucked up to those individuals or the propaganda aspects of it. So look how like magnificent sort of a free thinking space can become. And is this truly in the end of ends what they're afraid of? Like, imagine if the whole world was like us. And I'm, of course, being flattering to us because I'm biased, of course, and you guys are all amazing. But you see my point. Imagine if everybody could just kind of decouple from the propaganda aspect as much as possible, and then think about things and talk about things together. It does become dangerous to control the controllers. It does become dangerous, doesn't it?
If we were all just talking about nuts and bolts UFOs and the stuff that they talk about at the UFO congresses and on Corbell's podcast and stuff, they are not afraid of that. That is what they want us to talk about. Like that's cable is making its bread and butter on that. Hollywood is making its bread and butter on aliens and stuff. That's what blockbusters are defined by aliens. Like Will Smith famously, when he was crafting his arguably one of the biggest movie star careers ever, he goes, I want to be in an alien movie because alien movies are the big movies and stuff. Like people these are the stuff that you're supposed to talk about. You're allowed to talk about and stuff. So I don't know. It's so easy to just be like, well, I'm being stifled and my stuff was deleted or they ruined my credentials, blah blah blah. And you get people who want to think it's alternative to just eat it all up and everything. And I think you're right, Jorge. That's probably much more to do with the communicating with some kind of it's not necessarily space aliens, and you can kind of trace that paradigm back that didn't really exist as much in the 1800s and stuff. And even like John Carter of Mars and everything, he didn't go there via space. He astral projected, teleported style. Like he popped out of his body and then teleported and everything. And that the idea that these things are traveling distances in spaceships was put on us. You're right, since Orson Welles, and then different versions of it. I don't know. And it's just all this kind of stuff. Just all these influences are kind of supporting these narratives that don't really hold that much water, and don't really if you're looking for a unified theory of the weird, they don't fit in a lot of the cases and stuff. Or if they do, what, and they do know the stuff. My biggest thing is if Corbell knows about the summoning, the UFO summoning, the orb summoning. The Knapp wrote a whole thing about the quote unquote orb summoners, these friends, Knapp's childhood friends, who he got into the summoning, and now they're going around on different shows talking about it and teaching the process and stuff, and do it at a whim. And then Greer is obviously doing the CE5 stuff. Tom DeLonge in Secret Machines with Peter Levenda has chapters and chapters on the magic, how to bring these things in and everything, and then how in one breath they can know about that, and the next breath be well, they got talk about just this nuts and bolts stuff and how it can't be studied and everything. It's I don't know, summon one of these things to Congress or I don't know. It just seems if they really wanted answers, they would, I don't know, do these protocols and stuff that apparently work. And if you can charge that much money to get them to work,
exactly.
It's let me tell you why this is so dangerous. Now, this is what people don't get. There was there are two main instances that I think is oh my gosh, it's these things, whatever they are, have changed history in a second. Number one, Constantine, whenever he sees that weird thing, wherever it is, whatever it did to people, that motivated them and instructed him to beat Manzentius, because Manzentius had it won. It's like there was no way that Constantine could have won that war. But Manzentius had Rome. He had the biggest army. He had the most experienced army, and Constantine had a bunch of renegade Christian dudes. And also you have these lights up in the sky, and Constantine says, like, I saw Christ, and Christ he's guiding me, he's going to guide us to victory. He has to win, otherwise he's dead. And so these, whatever it is that happened, motivated people and just to win that war and to beat Manzentius. That's one. And then there are multiple. Socrates and the Timaeus, where like he has communications with this daimon or whatever he calls him. It's like it's these unseen things. That's how Iamblichus and Socrates, these unseen things that give them messages. It's like, oh my gosh, Socrates influenced human history forever, and he somehow communicated with something. You don't have to call it UFOs, you don't have to call it whatever, but those people seem to be having the same type of visions. Number 3, Alexander the Great, when he arrives at Jerusalem, is like they're ready to take the city, sack it, destroy it, kill a bunch of people, do whatever they always did. But instead, Alexander got off his horse in front of the Sanhedrin, and he got on his knees, and he told the Sanhedrin, you look like my daimon, or like my spirit guide. And so I don't need your stuff. I don't need your city. Just surrender to us. You are now our subjects, and, peace be upon you. He never did that to anybody else except to Jerusalem, because this guy happened to look like the guy that he saw in his visions, in his dreams, or whatever. So that is why this information is so freaking dangerous, because it has changed history over and over. And that's why the government does not like anybody knowing about it, because they don't want somebody just willy-nilly change the status quo.
Yeah, well said. I was about to cut it. All yours, Matt and Justin. Give me 10 seconds. When Derek was talking, I was going to say it seems very curated, and that's exactly the point of these conversations. And Jorge just slayed it better than I ever could have. I said exactly what he said. We just kind of diverged, and I was trying to be quick. Go ahead, Matt. Fire stuff, Jorge.
Yeah, I just wanted to add another story. I don't remember it too well, but to Jorge's stories. And it was Israel's, I don't remember if they called it the 2-day war or the 4-day war. And I'm pretty sure it was one of the 2 times they had invaded Egypt. And so, but the story goes that the Israel army had like 300 guys or 1,000 guys, and Egypt had like 12,000 soldiers, and they were coming at them. And this is, modern times. They had tanks and stuff like that. So there's these 12,000 Egyptians coming down on these, 800 or 1,000 Israelis are about to get slaughtered. And all of a sudden they just stopped. And like all the soldiers, all the tanks, they turn around and ran. And then when they interviewed and talked to them and stuff, they were like, man, they were up in the sky, all these like spaceships and UFOs over the Israelis. And just, that's another one of those military victory stories where they were grossly outnumbered. And even back in the all those ancient Sumerian texts, they have the stories of the big battles of mankind, and they had the UFOs that were fighting on both sides for the 2 different armies and having battles in the sky. And they have the drawings of these things 6,000 years old with UFOs shooting at other UFOs. So Jorge makes a good point that there's throughout history there's certainly a lot of tales about some major geopolitical events that were perhaps shaped by extraterrestrial interventions, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Just a couple clarifications because I have the luxury of clicking keyboards while you guys are talking. The 6-Day War, and also Constantine, interestingly, was the guy who saw the cross in the sky that kind of basically brought about the Christian Catholic faith into the West. I mean, there's like if you want to talk about an inflection point in history, that's one of the big ones.
Exactly.
Wild shit. Yeah, go ahead.
I gotta leave now, but I think it's a great point. Like the formalists, we talk about it a lot, but like the formalists trying to using us to kind of shape the form realm and stuff, or influencing ideas, influencing culture. It's in the movie, it's in the Eternals, but they're like actual like alien beings. It's more of an ancient aliens thing where they're like impacting culture for some kind of greater power or whatever, and they're not kind of really aware why. And then we talk about dreams and like all the story of people seeing sights. They also had like a dream the night before that told me to go to battle then countless times, or even the Russia-Ukraine thing. There was a story about a lightning bolt coming down and striking somebody and saving somebody's life when they were being outnumbered by a greater force, like in Ukraine or whatever. These memes keep popping up or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's I'm going back inside, so I lost my place. But yeah, I think it's trippy to think about these ideas kind of being curated from the other side and given to us in doses that'll lead us to a certain paradigm and stuff. And right now, the current paradigm, whether it's being coming from, like even Hannah Pasalka, when she talks about like meeting the tech elite and stuff, she believes that they're in communication with something from other dimensions or whatever, that they're talking, whether it's AI or whatever, aliens. They're throughout history, there's been this kind of priest class who were in communication with a higher power, or some kind of formless thing that's giving them instructions, same way as a 3-body problem. And then that could all be happening. And then also could be happening, we have a government who's controlling a paradigm, controlling the flow, like damming up the flow of information, and only giving us the nuts and bolts technology-based thing. At the very least, props up like the Church of Scientism, props up a belief in like these things are all just, they're scientifically advanced. They're coming from space. They're physical bodies, physical craft. They're super science. They have all these answers and stuff, and it props up these different other things that are useful for them. And getting us to fight about these things and ignoring the cooler things that we talk about in the show. But I gotta run. But just great stuff. I'll listen. Awesome stuff, you guys. Thank you.
You're the best. Appreciate it, Derek. Yeah. Who's got what on what? Who's been quiet the longest? Herschel, I got anything to add? MJ, you guys have been awful quiet. Want to make sure we work you in here. Everybody's welcome. Raise your hand. Pop on up. If you guys don't have everything, that's cool. If you want to hang out and just chill, that's cool. Totally. But go ahead if you guys have anything.
Well, I just want to know what the name of that show on Tubi is.
I got you. It's called hold on one moment here. Thank you to Ricky for dropping it in the chat. It's called
Tubi.
Yeah, UFO Revolution is what it's called. You can find it on Tubi for free. There's 3 episodes as far as I'm aware, and the one we're talking about is the season 2, episode 3. The Battlefield is where those clips came from. But clearly, there's a lot more here, and I don't know. Like me watching this, I'm learning some stuff from this guy on how to like shoot video and whatnot. He's got like 10 cameras. Everything he does, the guy's got 10 damn cameras. He zooms in, he zooms out. He's got, you have like 100% footage, and you use like 10 or 12 or 15% of it for the movie. But I don't know, man. He's a movie maker, but doesn't that make some bells ring? But anyway, yeah. So back to what I was saying. Just I'm like grinding my gears here. But yeah, thank you again to Ricky. TMZ presents UFO Revolution is what you're looking for.
Okay.
Well, we had that show the other day about if where these spacecrafts come from, and bring it up again. Majority of them, I feel they aren't traveling through space. That's just how I feel. It takes too long. Even and if you're gonna be traveling long distance, you're gonna need like a generational ship that we could see from without like any magnification. So I think a lot of it was interdimensional, or they figured out how to jump through wormhole, and you guys are talking about like ancient uh things. It makes me think like I believe that someone's been around a long time, like the Vimana, and they have like a guide and like how to fly it. I could be wrong about that, but like they had details like how it's made and how the pilot needs to what it needs to do to fly the Vimana. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, Vimana. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, that's the thing too, is that they've talked about that as an ancient flying vessel, ancient aliens, the rest of that stuff. And here's the thing too, like think about it this way: if you're driving a vehicle, right, the old school way, meaning like right now, or let's say 10 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, let's go old school a little bit here. You had to hop in the thing, you had to start the ignition, you had to, be able to manipulate the stuff, whether it was a manual or automatic, you put it in gear, like you had to do all the human stuff. And now you got the self-driving cars. You get it? So what's the next level of that as you're describing? Like 1,000 years from now, you think there's going to be self-driving anything? I think it's going to be more complicated than that. Maybe there's like an interactive display in your mind of maybe driving's a video game, like where it kind of half self drives and then you kind of half, or trying to in your mind run over Pokemons as you're, playing Frogger in traffic or something. You know what I mean? Like who knows? Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm just saying that, of course, being ridiculous, but who knows what that future brings? It's wild to even consider. Yeah, I don't know. And I think you're right. Back to that Vimana stuff. You would pilot things with your mind, not with your hands. And so we are, yeah. Well, here we come. Right. Go ahead, Ursh.
You
well,
might-
like I'm sorry. Go ahead. I've talked a lot.
You might actually have your mind enter the craft. It might clone your consciousness and use superposition and be in two places at once. That's what my oval stories are about. That's what those beings do. Those creatures. That's what they do. They clone their consciousness. They go they put their mind in the craft, and they just use the craft as a cranium. And they just can travel at the speed of their thought, which is more advanced than ours. So they can do a lot more stuff than we can.
Let me read you what Ambler says about that. It says kind of like the existence and the cause of the multiplet or the alternative multiplicity of secondary beings is a mix of the material with the emanations of the immaterial. I'm trying to translate it from kind of like Spanish Greek. In addition to the fact that they conduct themselves in a manner in which they receive a different form from the things that are at the bottom. And that is kind of like quote from Jamblica's Mystery of the Egyptian. And that is how he describes the diamonds.
Are you saying diamond or demon? I don't mean to be rude or anything, but
I guess the English translation is genius, and then the Arab the Arab translation is kind of like what is that called? Genie or genii? Kind of like these entities that communicate their thoughts. Like like for example that example with the kids in Africa, where the aliens started to communicate with them, but they didn't speak. They were communicating in their thoughts.
Telepathically,
yes.
Yeah.
But it's not telepathically. It's even more than that, because they scan you. They go through you. So it's not kind of like they're talking to you, because it's kind of like they already know exactly who you are and the language that you speak, and they will start talking to you out of respect, because they already know what you're going to say, what you're going to do. So it's even worse than that. It's not just telepathically, because telepathically is like, kind of like having a conversation between you and me, where like I have no influence on you. I don't know anything about you. I don't know your name. I don't know where you live. I don't know what has been your past lives. I don't know what is going to be your destiny. That is not the case for them. For them, it's like they know your past lives. They know who you are. They know what will you do under certain conditions. Where will you be? Where will you be after you die? They will know everything about you. And so when they start having a conversation with you, they will do it out of respect and kind of like, I'm going to give you your space, but I already know everything.
Yeah.
And so these beings are like way out. They're not like, oh,
they have objective vantage.
Yeah, big time.
It sounds like blending of consciousness, kind of.
Exactly, or like a consciousness outside of us. So oddly enough, this keeps coming up recently in these conversations we have, and I've been kind of deep diving this myself, sort of in the past 2 weeks. So it's strange to me that I'm like, I've been digging into this, and then it comes up unprompted in these conversations. It's so strange. But search it yourself; you'll find it. Search this. This is the best way to find it. DAIMON is what he's talking about. And back to the ancient philosophers, I think the modern folks would describe it as like a guardian angel, but it goes both ways. It could be a guardian demon, and sort of not be leading you on the right path either. They're both malevolent and benevolent, and so yeah, search it that way. DAIMON. You'll find exactly what we're talking about. Go ahead, Hirsch.
Okay, so the thing I wanted to point out, I don't want to change the subject too much, but like you were talking about just before I unmuted, something made me want to bring up my first instinct. I don't remember what the comment somebody made was, but my first instinct when I saw the drones on TV and everybody talking about the drones on the East Coast was that it was the breakaway technocrat civilization here showing off their new technology for the billionaires who can afford it. Like it was just like a showroom, like they were selling cars. That was my very first gut instinct. It was something like that. It was a commercial operation, that it was the private sector showing off their wares. I just wanted to, my gut, I trusted my gut a lot. I think that there's a commercial element to this.
I love that. But remember, we always talk about the trope is, where's our flying cars? Here's your fucking flying cars.
Yeah, there was a band. There was a band, these Catholic guys from California. They were called Daniel Amos. And they were a riot. They were really fun. They were weird and like religious and stuff, but man, they were really fun. And they had a song called "It's the '80s. Where's our rocket packs?" And that was written in the '80s. That song. They're like, "It's the '80s. Where's our rocket packs?" That was a great song. If you could find it on YouTube, you'll have it's a hoot. You'll enjoy it. But the other thing, it is, man. It's funny. Those guys were cool. The other thing was that it about time travel. If any of this has to do with time travel. There's we exist with paradox. Paradox is a part of existence. It's actually kind of a glue that holds everything together. And if we figure out that time travel exists, that means if some of this stuff that we're seeing has to do with that, and it's actually elements of our own species involved in this from different times in the universe. You know what I mean? If that's what we find out that some of this is, then that means time travel has always existed. Like if it exists in the future and they're time traveling, that means it's always existed. That means it has never not existed because they've been doing it. So that's like a loop. And it's actually it actually makes more sense that way. So in my mind, the way I look at this, I have resigned myself to the fact that it does exist, that there is time travel and that there are time travelers out in space. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but you can travel through time, but whether you can actually retain your memory, that's another topic. Time travel is possible, but your memory will be wiped out. So what good is it for? it's
Okay,
just
I don't know. I've never really contemplated it like that. I'd have to understand that better.
kind of like when
And I'm
you
not
have those,
saying that I can. I'm not saying that our species can necessarily, but
like
that I think it's a thing, and that if it existed, it always has existed. So it's not like, are we going to discover time travel? It's already there because there's some beings doing it, like even before we were here, probably. So just because we don't know it's not there doesn't mean it's not there. It does exist. So it does exist. But I want to hear more about how you think, and we don't have to talk about that now because it's a different subject, but I would like to learn more about how it would wipe your mind. That's interesting.
that's a very long conversation.
Yeah, we don't have to do that now.
It's a very long conversation. But let me put it to you this way. Sometimes, like, there's this story. This is probably the easiest one to try to grasp it with. About this Jewish lady that she went for a holiday, and I think she had her kids with her, and she was trying to get them to go to the synagogue, and then she got struck by lightning. And then there she was kind of like, for like 2 hours, kind of out of her mind. And then when she came back, she feels that she came back as a different person. And also now she was able to see through time, like not only through like past and future, but also through like things that she was not supposed to know because she has a human body and have five senses, but for some reason she knew things that other people wanted to know, and so she started to use it kind of. But then she said, well, why do I care if that woman's husband is sleeping with somebody else? It's not productive. But then the thing is that she was able to tap into that time continuum. Maybe not her body traveled through time, but certainly her mind was able to travel through time. And that is what we are. We are mind more than we are bodies. And so parts of her memory were wiped out. And this is only one case. There are many different cases like this, where people that are able to peer through time, parts of their memory are blank. It's like I have relatives that, that's exactly how they experience, and that's how I'm able to understand it better, because they were able to peer through time, and so, but parts of themselves blank. And then there is a Y-Files episode about this dude that was doing it supposedly with high voltage, and then he was actually traveled through time with his body, but then he ended up in like, I don't know, 2 months in the future or the past or something. And the dude didn't know who he was, and it took him like 2 years for him to regain his his personality of who he was. But then when he came back to the present, but with his body with 2 months change.
Wow.
I think I might know that story you're talking about. I heard it pretty recently. It might be a different one, but it's a factual story of a guy who he was kind of playing around with like one of Tesla's inventions. It was I can't remember what it's called right now, but it kind of looks like rabbit ears, where the kind of
Jacob's ladder.
Jacob's ladder, right? So he was playing around with the Jacob's ladder, and I can't remember what he did to it, but he had built this, and he noticed that whatever he was doing, it created this distortion in the electricity going across the rabbit ears, and so it was almost like it was creating this weird field or glow or something like that. And he was like, what the heck is that? And he tweaked his stuff a little bit. And so he took like a nut and he threw it in right into that spot, and it just disappeared. But then like 2 seconds later, it went rolling across this floor of like his garage, like 15 feet away. And So at first he thought it just like teleported it, but he kept experimenting with it, and it was, moving it to a different location, but there was like this delay. So it was actually time traveling. Well, and this is like, you know, from what I heard, a legit story in terms of the science of it. So the guy starts building bigger and bigger ones. Ends up getting a group of like 20 investors together, and he builds one big enough that he's going to jump into this thing. And he did various models, and he was having things go, 15 minutes into the future and appear 100 yards away and stuff like that. So eventually he actually up on a platform jumps into this thing and comes to out in this desert 3 states away, and yeah, doesn't know who he is for a while. um, doesn't have driver's license, anything like that. Has to hike into town, and it took him 2 years to actually figure out who he was and work odd jobs and get back. And when he eventually gets back, everybody thought he was dead, and his whole laboratory or facility got sold, because nobody paid the rent and all his equipment disappeared and stuff. But yeah, supposedly he went. I think I don't remember if he. I think maybe he went 2 years into the future, and maybe it took him 6 months to get home. But that was a wild story, and
I
You're
got you.
talking about Mad Man Markham. He was on Art Bell.
Yep.
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's
That's
the
the
guy.
guy. I was about to fill in the blanks there. Thanks for the chat for filling in the blanks. And by the way, I've never heard this story. Madman Markham is completely new to me, and I've been in the weird game for years. So, well, welcome to it. Always teaching each other new lore and new ideas.
He got arrested.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, like you can find his like stories, like legit. He got arrested for stealing Transformers
Oh yeah,
to to uh to do this experiment. Like he needed one, and he stole like 5 of them, like the big
yeah.
telephone pole ones. They're like,
No. These were he went to the power station and got these
yeah,
like 5,000
yeah,
kilowatt things. Yeah, he had to get these huge
yeah, but
transformers.
they're the ones that go on to the power poles. They were
Right,
they were like not being used or like 50 years old. And he said he only needed one, but he stole like 4 of them.
right. No, it's a legit story in terms of he existed, he built the stuff he built. Whether or not he went through time and the rest of the story of what happened to him, I mean, he definitely, it's known he disappeared. He was gone without a trace. That much is known. His story of where he woke up and that he went through time, that's his story. But it's a legit thing. He had investors. He built the stuff. It's that much of the story's true. I was thinking since Daryl brought it up about David Adair, and if you guys haven't researched and seen his videos and interviews, that guy's a trip, man. I think it's one of the most compelling stories. And there's a documentary about him. I can't remember if it's called The Rocket Boy or The Rocket Man, but this guy at age 15 built the fastest rocket in the history of the United States, faster than the U.S. military did, and attracted the military's attention, and got invited out to White Sands, testing grounds. And the generals came out and he demonstrated his rocket. And but this guy, yeah, he's a really famous, legit guy, and a heck of a storyteller. Just entertaining. It's just fun to watch his stuff. But that's where it ties into Daryl was talking about him going to Area 51 and S4 stuff. Is that happened when he was a kid? And the cool thing he did with the rocket is he created this like plasma rocket system that he had just researched and found there was 50 different types of rockets, and he found this designs for one that had never been built, and he's like, that one looks cool, and so he picked it out and built it. So it was unlike any rocket. Well, anyways, at White Sands, he gets his rocket all set up and programs it. It's supposed to go up and land right back down. And so the general says they're going to have their guys check it out and look at it, and the military guy gets under the hatch, and he basically reprograms the coordinates of the flight of the rocket without the kid knowing, David Adair. And so when they launch it, it actually flies and lands at Area 51. Well, he sees it take off and not come back, and he's like, "Where's my rocket? What happened?" And they're like, well, we need to take a look at it and stuff, but we know where it's at. Jump in the car and come with us." And so he does, and they take him to Area 51, and this is all subterfuge, because really what they want him to do is go look at this UFO. And he tells a story of all these amazing details of what he saw, the stuff that how it worked in these weird lit rooms and everything. But when he gets in there, he literally climbs inside, and they're trying to get him. It was damaged, and they wanted to have it repaired, and he was like the smartest kid around, so they were having no luck, and so they wanted him to go repair the engine, where he climbs in and examines the thing. But then he figures out and kind of has an experience with the thing, and it ties into what we were talking about of blending your consciousness with the craft. But apparently this thing had somewhat of a living material system that was like a giant squid that went through the engine and the wrapped around the ship and stuff like that, that you would, it would attach you and interface with you. And it's a wild story. David Adair, if you haven't, he did, a whole bunch. He used to travel around and give talks and stuff like that. But if you haven't checked out his story, it's impressive, because he's like a legit famous guy for his rocketeering, and he tells one heck of a tale, I tell you what. But yeah, Daryl brought him up before, and every time I'm like, oh yeah, man, I love that guy. His story is out there.
Yeah, 100%. Let me cut in here because we're just about running out of time. I got a pizza order that I got to go pick up in a minute, so we got to cut it. But final thoughts from everybody. Daryl, anything on that? I know I don't know anything about David Adair, but you've brought him up several times on the show. Anything on that to add to what Matt said? We'll kind of go round robin, and just a final thought from everybody. You guys are the best. Thanks for staying up late with us.
Definitely recommend you watch it. You could watch any interview with him, with Joe Roop or Cassidy. All the interviews except for one are really excellent, and you'll probably never find the one that wasn't. But it was not his fault; it was the interviews. But his story is so amazing. He met with Werner von Braun. He went to Area 51. He touched the alien rocket ship, and it responded to him. It was interactive with him, and I think he got a serious download of knowledge when he touched it. He was not the same person after that. And, he had made this rocket that they wanted to use to do a first strike to Russia to end the world, to start World War III without the Russians even knowing what hit them. And when David heard that, he destroyed his own rocket that he created. It was using nuclear fusion, which nobody has figured out yet. Or maybe they have, I don't know. But he destroyed it with, he put sand in the engine and launched it and made it blow up in the air like a little mushroom cloud blew up. But he was a smart little kid. He was a rocket scientist, So his story is great. He's a great storyteller, and he validates Bob Lazar, and Bob Lazar validates him. They pretty much described the same place. It was so big you could see the curvature of the Earth, and it was like they used logs, like oak tree logs, to roll it down this elevator that could carry an airplane on it. It was huge, and it just descended into the Earth straight down. And I don't know how many levels down he went, but it was like at least 3. And they came into like a hangar that was so big and so long, and it had and it had ambient lighting, which they also discussed in findings in Antarctica. And he couldn't find one outlet for the lamps. He didn't know how they illuminated the tunnels, or the downstairs. There was not one outlet or one light bulb, and somehow it was all illuminated and climatized. Same as the one in Antarctica. That was a whistleblower that talked to Lyndon Moulton Howe. And then it sounded similar to Area 51 in a way. I don't even know if we made that. It was
Or-
under a lake bed.
More whistleblowers doing their thing, doing their thing. Yeah.
You imagine the earth moving technology that they have? I don't think we did that initially. I think somebody else did that, and we just inherited it. But they had a lot of ships down there, apparently, a lot of ships that we did not make, a lot of ships we did make. The Valkyrie was down there, this airplane it was like an Art Deco airplane. It was so beautiful. They had that down there for some reason. They only made 2 of them, and one of them was there. It's a very good story he tells. He's very detailed and memorable, You'll like it. You'll enjoy it.
Fair enough.
I'll post one. I'll post one.
Thank you. Yeah, drop it in the Discord, please. I barely know anything about him. Only basically what Daryl has told me, what Matthew's added here. But like I said, I try and keep up with all things. But what do I know? I never heard of Mad Marcus. What was his name? Mad Markham.
With his website.
Mad Mike Markham. I've never heard of that till tonight either. You guys are weirder than I am. Congratulations, you all get a sticker. Oh, add that to your when you're on Ancient Aliens. Weirder than Mike Strange. it's your new credential. You guys are the best. Thanks, Daryl. We're gonna go round robin and just get final thoughts. Ricky, you've been quite the longest, and please keep it brief, everybody. Let's get a final thought here. If you don't want a final thought, you're welcome to dip. I understand. Like putting you on the spot is very, very stupid here. But go ahead, Ricky. What you got? And then we'll go round robin. If you're there, see, he's probably like eating some fried rice or something. Okay, let's go to Jorge. Final thought from you. We'll go to Hirsch, and then we'll go wrap this up. And Shane as well.
All I gotta say is knowledge is a dangerous thing, but it's a beautiful thing. So be responsible and cautious with it, because life is precious. So,
cheers to that. Cheers to that. Thanks for staying polite with us, brother. Herschel or Shane, you guys, you pick.
I'll go. I feel like it's good that we talk about all this stuff, and there's so many distractions, but sometimes the stuff just going on right around us is so much, and that's why sometimes we look elsewhere. But we got to start dealing with the issues right here, like with this situation that we're actually in the 3-dimensional realm right here. Like, it's not good. And like I want to escape too. I do. I mean, sometimes that's what some of this is about to me. Like, they want to distract us from their irresponsible nature, and they're kind of what's the word? I'm getting tired. What's the word I'm looking for? There's frivolous behavior. They want to distract us from what they're doing, and they get our mind on these other things. They're trying to get back down to earth as much as possible. That's all.
Yeah, you're good. You're good on that, and I agree and disagree. Just a really fast thing there is, I think it's important to recognize that is what's happening, but also to fully entertain wild ideas outside of their paradigm is important, because when you look back at it, it sort of exposes the clown world of what they're doing, So kind of like lock your mind into Greek mythology and deep dive that for like a couple months or whatever. And then you look at what's happening and you're like, actually happening. You're like, what the fuck is going on right now? So it's good. Like both ways. There's like a duality of that mindset in my mind anyway.
Let me tell you how beautiful you just said what you just said. It's like, one time there's an apocryphal scripture where one of the apostles asked Jesus, is like, so Master, what's in the afterlife? And then he says, only what you take with you. He's like, what do you mean? And it's like, everything that you know here, you will take with you. And that is the whole basis of the philosophy of Gnostic Christianism, which is, at that time they didn't call it that. This is a modern term that we basically have put on that for the last like 100 years, more or less. But that right there is like, that is what you're going to take with you. It's like, once you get up there into like eternities, what you know is what you're going to take with you. If you don't know crap, you're going to be pretty bored, I'm pretty sure. But what you just said is beautiful, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Yuzu. Bring a bag. This is a T-shirt. Don't bring a bag of crap to heaven. 100%. Shane, go ahead. What you got?
Thanks for the conversation tonight. You guys quickly brought up David Adair. His one of the most recent interviews that I saw of him that I liked, well, he was on the podcast Exopolitics with Dr. Michael Sala, which is a couple episodes, but he goes through the whole story if you guys are interested in listening to David Adair's story. And sorry I didn't speak up early enough. I was fixing my tinfoil onesie. My bad.
You're allowed. Let me know. Let me know if you want to affiliate link that. I'm sure some other folks would be interested in a tinfoil onesie. You guys are the best. Go.
But yeah, right now I feel we're in an information war. So try, everyone. I think best advice is do your own research, come to your own conclusion, and don't believe everything you see until you do your due diligence.
Amen. The old anti-propaganda. Matthew and Matt Coe. Final thought. Keep it brief and let's wrap this.
Well, real quick, Bigelow, after he sold Skinwalker, I think got $20 million grant to study consciousness. And in terms of the time travel thing, if they're interdimensional, they're beyond our linear time. So, and my very final, entertain any idea but believe in nothing. Terrence McKenna.
Cheers to that. I'm going to add the music here so I don't have to edit in at the end. You guys are the best. Thanks again for being part of this. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for considering ideas that we may or may not believe in. That's the whole point, right? Like I said, when you deep dive something, move your mind to a different space, a different reality tunnel, and then come back to the clown world, you'll see that's exactly what Troubled Minds has always been about. Okay, well, all this stuff is happening, but what about all this other stuff that we never talk about, we're never allowed to consider, and et cetera, so on. If you want to help us, help our friends, troubledminds.org/friends. Please do that. Go buy Herschel's book. Go buy Matthew's book. Go buy James's book. Go buy the Roberts book. And spread the word. If you want to spend any money, that's cool too. Just to let people know a conversation is happening where we will not tell you who to vote for because everybody else is doing that. Every other MFer in the planet that's got a microphone is doing that. So I thought, why don't we not do that? Why don't we not do that? Isn't it weird? Like locking into the archetype of a partisan. So how about we make a pact? I'm creating magic on the microphone here. Let's make a pact together that we lock into the idea of becoming collectively a nonpartisan, somebody who can see things in many different ways and react to them as is appropriate in the moment. I know it's revolutionary. I know nobody allows that in this day, in this space. But I say, since it's Friday night, fuck off Fridays, fuck that, which I don't encourage vulgarity on the radio show, but since it's Friday, we're not on the radio, fuck that. Come on now, stop. We don't have to like literally chase people's paradigms down because they tell us in the mass media. You guys already know this. It's worth reiterating, but let's lock into non-partisanship, committing to it and considering greater possibilities. If you want to help us spread the word, let people know a conversation is happening, but we will not tell you who to vote for. We're going to talk about all manner of wild ideas and even challenge your concept of what it means to be human. This is what it means to me. This is why I have these conversations. The moment my mind is not interested and tickled and inspired to be here, I won't be. So let's hope it continues. I've been inspired since I was a very young person to think about these larger ideas, and clearly you guys are, because you're still here. Still here as I'm outroing. But once again, help our friends, please. troubledminds.org/friends. If you should be on that list, let me know. And as we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. I've got a pizza to pick up, so I'm out of here. You guys be well, and we'll catch you on Sunday night, God willing, and catch you then. Beep, beep, beep. Boop, boop.